All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. Breaking news in baseball just happened moments ago. According to Jeff Passan, the Braves and Jurickson Profar are on agreement on a multi-year deal. We'll talk about that breaking news coming up here to start the show. San Diego State avoided disaster last night, beating Air Force on a game-winning layup by Wayne McKinney. Aztecs, they now move on to take on Nevada this Saturday on the road. Tonight, the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson, they're finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
Getting you all set for that drive home.
Thank the Lord they didn't sign him. If he came in the studio and took a photo with us, you would look like you're like 2 inches tall, man.
What is this?
A center for ants.
You're like, what's that movie? Honey, I Shrunk the Gym. And John.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
You son of a...
I mean, we'd be tiny.
Dude, he is
We'd be like
massive.
hitting the ceiling in here. No wonder he throws 100 miles an hour.
Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Hour one of Jon and Jim. The breaking news Jim just told you about is Jurickson Profar is no longer a Padre. The book I always reference, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, is the Padres' offseason. From 24 scoreless innings to everything that's happened until now, they couldn't even keep Jurickson Profar, which we knew was a possibility. We knew they don't have any money. They actually want to shed payroll, according to The Athletic. We'll get into that coming up. And now Jurickson Profar goes to another team in the National League coming off his career best year. We don't have the terms yet on the deal, but man, we're just looking for something positive. Okay, you don't land Roki. Okay, there's a lawsuit for the future of the organization. Okay, you don't score for your final 24 innings of the season. You can't give us something. You can't give us Jurickson Profar. So Jurickson Profar, Jim, is off to the Atlanta Braves. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. We've said that all offseason. Maybe there's a reason they hadn't signed him as of yet. But say goodbye to one of the best left fielders in baseball in 2024.
When have you ever mentioned that book?
I mentioned it yesterday.
You did?
Yeah.
He's mentioned it before.
I mention it all the time.
I must have not been listening.
Well, I don't think necessarily get it. I haven't said Alexander the Terrible, but I always say this very bad, no good, very awful day.
That part gets referenced in pop culture things all the time.
Yeah.
That's how I know it.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a good book to reference when you're talking about the Padres offseason right now. This was a move that they had to make. It felt like it was a move that they could make, given the fact that it wasn't going to cost you an arm and leg. It wasn't going to be a $150 to $200 million contract. You could have gotten this guy back. I'm curious to see what the numbers are.
Let's guess. No, let's guess.
Okay.
I have no idea. Let's do the 1, 2, 3, and we'll say years, dollars. So you'll say X years, X dollars.
Hold on a second. Let me.
No. Because the math.
I'm just doing math real quick.
Jim's like $600 million.
No.
17 years. Don't tell us.
All right. Hold on. Let's see here. Okay.
We'll do it. You want to do it, Brent?
No,
No,
I was
just
going to
okay.
say just do
All right.
2 years, then do
3,
money.
2, 1.
3
3 years,
40.
35.
Okay.
We both didn't say it right, by the way, but from what I asked. But so we're saying the same thing.
I said
we're
3 for 40. You said 3 for 35.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We're saying 12, 13 a year for 3 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm very
Could it
curious.
be more than that off
If-
the Santander?
I bet he gets more than that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more than that.
Look, if it's lower than that, it's going to be even
then
worse. for the
fire
Padres.
everyone.
Yeah.
Move the team to
It's going to be awful.
Jacksonville.
I can't blame Preller here because
This has nothing to do with
this has
Preller.
nothing to do with him. This is everything to do with the new ownership not willing to spend money and not willing to go over a CBT. There's no stopping you from doing that, guys. None. There's no official cap here.
There's no official cap. You're
So
right.
you could do that. You could spend as much money as you want, but they won't. They will not spend any money. They haven't spent any money. And now you not only have a gaping hole in left field without Jurickson Profar there, but you don't have many options to go to. I can't think off the top of my head a player right now that they could go out and sign that makes sense.
So it'll
Because
be a trade
it was like Profar or bust, right?
Yeah, it's all via trade now. I'm with you on Preller. Preller's not the one that controls the budget. Now, you could argue that Preller put them in some of these budgetary issues. You could certainly argue that, but Preller's not controlling the budget. He's not walking into John Seidler Bros' office. I don't know if the name plate says Seidler Bros or if it says John Seidler, and saying, yo, give me 45 for Profar. I mean, I think they're trying to shed payroll. We'll get into that. That's why Dylan Cease is on the market, because they're trying to shed payroll. And you're right. You look at these outfielders that are available. I mean, give me a break. You're talking about like 36-year-olds and David Peralta, who had a nice year here last year. But, I mean, it was a little bit of Jurickson. But we were always holding out hope. The VAR guy, the good vibes, the Tatis relationship. He holds the clubhouse together. What was the issue in 2023? Can I say this word? It starts with a C and ends with a P. Their bad clubhouse.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Their crappy clubhouse?
Oh, I can say it?
Yes, you could say crap, John.
Well, I got in trouble one time for saying something else.
Yeah, because you called me...
Because that was an actual swear word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crappy's not a swear word unless you're like in second grade.
But, dude, the crap clubhouse of 2023 didn't have Jurickson Profar. Oh, by the way, they got him in September. They were the best team ever.
Yeah, they went like
didn't matter.
15 games in a row.
Then in 2024, the thing was held together by whomever. But Profar gets credit for it and played well. They win 93 games. Are we sure that the clubhouse is stable without Jurickson? Are we sure he's not an integrally, is that a word? An integral piece to the clubhouse?
He's a huge piece of the clubhouse. I've said this all offseason that if you don't have Profar in that clubhouse, it's going to be a problem. He was a guy last year that it felt like he kept everything together, even though he wasn't the best player on the team, but he also played at times like the best player on the team. He just was that calming presence in a clubhouse that needs it. Manny's a leader by example, right? He's going to go out there and he's going to play 160 something games and he's going to put up his numbers and yada, yada, yada. But when you're asking Manny to do like more than that to be a leader, that's going to be tough. Like it is. You know, Manny in the postseason demonstrated some things that you really liked, you know, in that Dodger series. But again, he didn't show up at the plate. So, I mean, that was a bummer. But you needed Profar. Profar was such a huge part of that clubhouse and has been a huge part of this clubhouse when he's been here. It's no coincidence, John, that the years that Profar has been here, this team has won. It's no coincidence.
We're going to find out if it's a coincidence or not.
Well, I'm just saying, as of right now,
yeah,
the years that Profar has been an everyday player for this Padres team.
Yeah, no, I get it.
The team has won.
By the way, who do you open with at Petco Park?
The Atlanta Braves.
Opening day in left field for the Atlanta Braves is Jurickson Profar, coming off a career year with you. I mean, insult to injury, whatever cliche you want to use. I get it. It's professional sports. Players come and go. But you got to have some of them stay. They can't all go. You got to have some of them stay. Well, John, they've got a good core. They do. But it's competitive. It's professional sports. Atlanta's good. Philadelphia's good. LA is good. Are the Padres doing the things necessary to win at the highest level? It always goes back to that. And the answer right now is unequivocally no. Unequivocally no.
It's so disappointing. It is so disappointing that this team, coming off a 93-win season, has taken such a giant step back this offseason by doing nothing.
It's like a U-turn.
Nothing. You have to capitalize on these types of moments in your franchise's history. And you said, nah, we're good.
93 wins. You led the Dodgers in the NLDS. I know it's crying over spilled milk. You led the series 2-1. You were at home. You were the favorite in the series in that exact moment. And from that moment in time, you've been lapped. You have been lapped by baseball.
And it's okay if you lose off seasons. Last off season, it wasn't great for the Padres.
I agree.
Like trading away a Hall of Fame player in Juan Soto for a bunch of unknowns, signing Yuki Matsui and Wandy Peralta and Woo-Suk Go, and then Profar late in the game for $1 million. Like, it wasn't perceived as a great offseason last year.
I agree.
And oh, by the way, you lost your beloved owner, Peter Seidler, as well. That's the worst part of anything that's happened over the last two off seasons.
No doubt.
And they won 93 games last year. You know, he had a rookie center fielder that never played the position before, became the best rookie in baseball, should have won the rookie of the year.
True.
So, like, you can have bad off seasons, and Preller's had amazing off seasons before, right? Trading for Darvish and Musgrove and Snell
in like a week,
and signing Xander and re-signing Manny and
signing Manny even.
Yeah, like signing Manny, like having that year where they signed Hosmer. Like, they've won off-season awards before. Didn't mean anything, but they have won the offseason before. And how many times have they won the offseason and followed it up with a really good year?
Not every time.
Not every time, exactly. Right. Now, this offseason, they're not going to win it. They have lost the offseason, but it's hard for me to be like, well, even though they lost the offseason, they can still be good this year, because the vibe and the feeling of this franchise going forward doesn't feel that way. And when you've lost the players that you've lost to the teams that are directly in competition with you.
Yeah, this isn't Miami.
Profar's not going to the American League.
He's going to Sacramento.
He's going to the Braves, who you are going to be in direct competition with potentially for a playoff spot. Tanner Scott, Blake Snell, they went to the Dodgers. Again, you're not competing with them in the division, but you get my point. When you have the teams that you're directly competing with, the Mets got Juan Soto, the Braves just got Jurickson Profar, the Phillies are the Phillies. The D-backs just got Corbin Burns. The Giants got Willie Adames.
Well, you better hope. Well, here's what's going to happen, Jim. I am prepared for this. You better hope that Tirso Ornelas is the next Jackson Merrill. I'm telling you, you're going to start hearing, hey, he's a great young player. He did really well in AAA. He's primed to take the next step. But, I mean, a rookie, like, how many times can you have lightning strike? Because the Merrill thing was great. It was. And the organization deserves a ton of credit, and so does Jackson Merrill. It should be celebrated. He was awesome, to your point. Mm-hmm. He absolutely could have been, maybe should have been, Rookie of the Year. Tirso Ornelas might be a great young player, and he's not Merrill in terms of age. He's 24. And he had a great year in the PCL. But this is what I know about the PCL. It's not overly relevant. It doesn't automatically correlate to what happens in the major leagues. Maybe he's a good young player. Maybe you plug him in and he hits 20 home runs and has an 850 OPS like he did last year in AAA El Paso. Or maybe you've taken on a significant loss in your outfield by losing Jurickson Profar, a veteran coming off a career year, for a potential opening day rookie outfielder, which, again, I was concerned about last year, and they proved me wrong. Maybe they'll prove me wrong again if that's the path or plan for the Padres in 2025. I'm beginning to think that, they'll sign a veteran. They'll bring in some 37-year-old Jim for $1 million. But is it going to be some rookie every day regular in left field in 2025?
And this news just dropped right before our show started.
Yeah, 5 minutes before.
I had to change all of our things on, we had a whole rundown. It's pretty much just throw that thing out the window because of this news. And so I'm still digesting it. I have to see the number. I need to see the number of what he signed for with Atlanta, because until I see that number, I can't fully, I'm not going to say judge it, but fully digest it all. Because if it is a number that we've been talking about, 3 for 35, 3 for 40 at 13 to 14, $15 million a year, then it makes the Padres even look more like a joke.
What if it's some huge deal to where it's like, hey, lighter washer?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. $74 million for 4 years, then you have to walk.
Yep.
And I would say they bought low. That's a credit to Preller. That's an amazing signing.
$1 million for an all-star.
Incredible signing. And you can't overpay. And you can't pay for past production. So there is a line. But as a Padre fan, you could be upset because Jurickson Profar is not walking through that clubhouse except with a Braves uniform on in 2025. That's the unfortunate part of it. And we're all going to be there March 27th. And so will Jurickson. He's going to be wearing a tomahawk, not a Padres jersey, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. All right, much more on this on the other side. We'll get into the impact with Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs. What's the impact of Profar to Atlanta, not San Diego? What's the impact of Roki to LA, not San Diego? Dan Szymborski joins us at 3:30. We have giveaways. We're here until 6. It's Jon and Jim.
San Diego
Radio app. Make sure to download it. You have presets. Put Jon and Jim in there. San Diego Sports 760. We're on 1015 Channel 2 HD Radio. San Diego Sports 760. YouTube, iHeartRadio app, San Diego Sports 760, and more. Again, Jon and Jim. All right, we're reacting to the news that Jurickson Profar will not be back. I mean, he'll be back, but not as a Padre. He'll be in a Braves uniform. We have not yet seen the terms on what is a multi-year deal. It's being reported as a multi-year deal. And
he'll be there on opening day.
He'll be there opening day, as I said.
Yeah, he'll be at Petco Park opening day, just in a Atlanta Braves uniform.
Yeah, March 27th, and whatever. I mean, that alone, okay. And we have to see the terms. And I mean, you're going to play Atlanta 6 times. Like it's not like head to head. It's the end of the world. But you are competing, as you said, with Atlanta to get to the postseason. And if Profar puts together any type of season similar to last year, he's going to be sorely missed. I do know that. Even if he's not as productive as last year because of what he means to a clubhouse. And that is so critically important in San Diego, where they've had these clubhouse issues pop up like they did in year 2 of Bob Melvin. And Mike Schilt was brought in to kind of clean up the mess, but maybe Jurickson Profar deserves some of that credit. So Profar to the Braves, to be honest, Jim, I don't know if I was expecting him to San Diego, but I think I was kind of expecting him to San Diego. So it is a little disappointing. And maybe it's a lot disappointing. When I see the terms, it might not. I'm going to be okay with it. I'm all for walking away if the terms are more than they should have paid.
If it's around like the 60 to 70 million range, then yes,
I
will be okay with it. I can stomach that. It will still be difficult, but I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
If this thing is around what was reported he was looking for, or even less than that, then it makes me even more upset. And it should make Padres fans livid as well. Because, yes, Profar on the field put together an all-star season for this team.
Right.
But it was the intangibles that made him so valuable. Like, he wasn't going to let anybody on any other team.
Yeah, he wasn't taking anything from anyone.
Talk any type of you-know-what to the Padres. He was going to be front of that line, and he was going to hold down the fort. He was like, hey, you're going to talk S to me? Okay, yeah, you're going to have to go through me, buddy. And he was kind of like, not their enforcer, but, he brought an edge to the team that nobody on the team had that Profar had.
From day one.
Exactly.
In April last year,
Against
Will
the
Smith
Dodgers.
calls him out like, who is this dude? He's irrelevant. And he actually made him pay 24 hours later at Dodger Stadium. Like, that's incredible. And you're right. And then the Washington Nationals are like, he broke the rules. It's unwritten. No, they didn't. And then he makes them pay. Like, he really was. You're right. He's like a hockey enforcer.
Yeah.
And then on the inside, he's like the lovable, likable Jurickson Profar. When he's on your team, you're enamored with him. Now, when he's not on your team, we saw Dodger Stadium in the postseason.
Oh, you hate him. It's like the Draymond
We saw
Green.
Will Smith. Yeah. We saw the Nationals, the way they thought of him. He's in that division. We'll be seeing Washington a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Atlanta, and listen, Atlanta makes savvy moves. And Atlanta doesn't overpay. This isn't going to be a $90 million deal.
No, it's not.
And if it's 2 for $20, I will kick and scream for the next 3.5 hours.
I will too. And I'll kick and scream for 4 hours tomorrow.
And I'll do it next week
on
too.
Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and until the season starts.
Until there's another Roki Sasaki story.
Yeah, that's a great point. Atlanta does not make stupid moves.
Never.
He is going to a franchise that gave Ronald Acuna
$5
for $100 million.
Right.
Like,
yeah, and like 50 homers and 70 steals.
Like, they don't make stupid moves. They let Max Fried walk for that insane $200+ million deal from the Yankees.
Shot.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Right.
So I am fully now prepared for when the numbers of this deal come out for it to be very team friendly.
Yeah, 1 for 9.
Right.
2 for 16
oh my,
and a half.
Imagine
3 for 20. Imagine. It's not, right? Santander got a lot of money. Right? Didn't he just get 90 million?
But he deferred 60 of it.
But at the end of the day, it's 90. Right? We're going to say the total number. You're right. I mean, maybe the Padres.
Good on him, by the way.
But if he got 90, can't Jurickson get half that? Yeah.
Yeah.
He should.
Yeah, he should. And this is like a domino effect with everything on the field, clubhouse, like the grit that he brought, the edge that he brought to this team. Him and Tatis are like glued at the hip. They're working out in the offseason together. They're best buddies on the field and off the field. Like, this hurts for a number of reasons, but you can't fully pick one because it's all of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just his production on the field or the fact that he is a calming force in that clubhouse, that he keeps guys like Tatis in check that, kind of need to be, put in check sometimes, and not afraid to maybe stand up to Manny in that clubhouse when Manny needs someone to stand up to him. And on the field, he's going to stand up to anybody on the opposing team when that opposing team slights anybody on the Padres.
But even beyond that, to your point, I mean, the guy had an 839 OPS playing every day. He hit 24 home runs last year for the Padres. He played 158 games. He was a 4-WAR player. You're not replacing that right now unless Tirso or Nealis is Jackson Merrill. So you're not replacing that right now unless it's kind of out of thin air. And maybe it's possible because Jackson Merrill, to some, was out of thin air in 2024. By the way, he's a year older than Santander, maybe a year and a half. I mean, if this is a sweetheart deal, I'll go crazy. I don't think it's going to be, and I'm with you. I don't think Atlanta overpays. I think it's the right dollar figure at the end. Whatever Atlanta paid is probably the right number because they're very smart and savvy. So I'm now gonna increase my 3 for 35 to 3 for 45. I'll go over your 3 for 40. Okay, because I think he's earned it. I think he's earned that. I think it's going to be the right deal. I don't think it's a sweetheart deal. I don't think it's a Santander deal. But I think he should probably get 15 a year.
Good for Profar, whatever he gets. I hope it's a multi-year deal. I hope he gets as much money as possible.
Right.
Because the last time he went to free agency, coming off of a pretty good season, he didn't get anything. And he had to go to Colorado, and that was a disaster.
What did he get that year? Like 1 for 5?
Yeah,
1 for 7?
Honestly, I don't remember. But in the end, there's no spinning this from the Padres. You can't bring back Jurickson Profar. Like, seriously?
We got 1 for 7.75 in Colorado, and then 1 for 1 here.
You can't bring back a guy that's not going to cost you $100+ million, not even maybe $50 million.
Right.
And we haven't even talked like the lead of our show today was that report last night that the Twins and Padres have been in discussions on a trade involving potentially Dylan Cease.
Exactly. For Christian Vasquez, by the way, is coming off a very down year, and it's 35 or 36.
There'd be more in that deal than Christian Vasquez.
But I'm not trading Dylan Cease for some package of prospects. When it's 30-something Manny Machado and 30-something Xander Bogaerts, and the wheels are falling off. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about the top pitching prospect in the Twins organization today. Mm-hmm. And I know they need a catcher. And by the way, what does that say about Luis Campusano? What we've been saying for months on end, that they're not confident with him starting for them.
Look, I know they're not confident with Luis Campusano. Like, how many times has Luis Campusano gotten an opportunity and then immediately got replaced by somebody else?
Yeah, probably like 3.
Exactly.
I mean, he's always hurt.
Yeah. But back to the Profar thing, and of course, we'll talk about it throughout the show. I can't wait to see this number. It is almost like the cherry on top of a just awful offseason. It is the continuation of 24 straight scoreless innings, going into losing out on Roki Sasaki, going into now losing Jurickson Profar, and potentially now, losing Dylan Cease if they end up trading him.
Jurickson Profar and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad offseason. Available now. What's the name of book publisher?
Random House.
Thank you, Brent. All right. More of your reaction on the other side. We'd love to hear from you. I mean, what are your thoughts right now, Padres fans? It's just one thing after the next. You want to vent? 877-767-4760. 877-767-4760. Hit us up on the talkback mic. Open the free iHeartRadio app. Search for San Diego Sports 760. You can leave a 30-second talkback and vent there. More on Jon and Jim next.
Don't skip out on OGs this new year.
All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. Breaking news in baseball. Jeff Passan reported this about a half hour ago. Jurickson Profar has agreed to a deal with the Atlanta Braves. The terms of that deal have been released. It's 3 years for $42 million. We'll talk about that coming up next. Aztecs avoided disaster last night as they beat Air Force on a game-winning layup by Wayne McKinney. Aztecs' next game will be this Saturday night against Nevada on the road. You can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. And tonight is the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show at 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
All right, so yeah, I theorized that it was going to be a fair deal. Atlanta doesn't overpay, and I don't think Profar was going to take less than what he basically earned last year. So, like you just said in your update, 3 for 42 to me is fair for both sides. All right, that's a good deal for Jurickson. He's never been paid like that. His career earnings are $35 million. He's going to double it in the next 3 years. So they get him for $14 a year. The Padres aren't paying Dylan Cease $14 million. They aren't paying Luis Arraez $14 million. And now they're not paying Jurickson Profar $14 million a year either.
The Braves press release said he's going to make $12 million in the first year and then $15 million for the last 2 years of his deal.
Yeah, so 14 AAV is the total with a $42 million deal. Fair deal. That's what Atlanta does. Profar gets the money he's earned based on what he did in 2024. And Padres fans are going to have to come to terms with the fact that one of their best players from last year isn't going to be back.
Yeah, when you look at all the projections and you look at all the sites that, value players and evaluate what players should get on the open market, this is like right on the nose, right? Right on the nose. $14 million a year, 3-year deal, nothing crazy, not an overpay with the production that, he put out last season, and all the advanced stats from him showing that what he did last year could be sustainable long term. Maybe not for the next 3 years, all 3 of them, but for maybe 2, right? Like he's gonna, I don't think, fall off a cliff. I don't know if he's gonna hit 280 again.
He's had some bad years. He's had some. I mean, last year was his best year.
But it's to me more about like the intangibles that he brings to the table while also producing on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very fair.
And so
I think the Padres would do it if they had money.
Yeah, so for that $14 million a year, I'm all for. Like earlier today, I saw something along the lines of like on social media, putting together the case why Profar's year last year is sustainable. And I was like, perfect, great, get it done. Like just get it done. And then he ends up signing today for something that we all thought he was going to sign for.
But I mean, I think maybe we are kind of fooling ourselves because it's been reported by Kevin Acee, Dennis Lin as recently as yesterday. Dennis Lin wrote in The Athletic yesterday, the Padres are trying to lower payroll. So why would we think they would increase it by $13 million a year? They paid Jurickson Profar $1 million last year. If they're trying to lower payroll, I mean, isn't the writing on every wall in every publication? They're not adding any payroll unless they trade Dylan Cease, Luis Arraez, Jake Cronenworth, Robert Suarez, Xander Bogaerts. They're not adding any payroll. They have a $900,000 contract with Tyler Wade. They've added no money. Zip.
Well, they have added money through arbitration.
But they've added, but that's the problem. Their payroll's gone up since last year.
And they haven't done anything.
Right. So they need it to go down. It doesn't go down by re-signing Jurickson Profar. So I guess joke's on us. I mean, we're like, they're going to get it done. If they can get a 2 for 20, they'll get it done. No, they're not. They don't have any money.
You can't tell me, though, that last year they didn't have this possibility written out somewhere of possibly happening. They can't be that stupid.
Well, the possibility that they lose them?
The possibility that they can't make any moves this offseason because of the payroll, problems that they're having and the financial issues that they're having and the arbitration numbers that they're going to have to give players.
Yeah, but you're having a good night, man. You're at the bar. You're with your friends. You're not worried about tomorrow.
I can't sit here and think that AJ Preller in this front office is that dumb.
Well, they're going to tell you they have a plan. Oh, it's going to be, we're going to win, and we're going to win. What's the words he's been using? We're going to win responsibly. And Tirso Ornelas, wait till you see him, man. He's going to hit 380 this spring, and he's going to
Oh,
fight for that left field job.
Oh, they're going to hype the hell out of that guy.
The SpongeBob SquarePants dude that they signed,
Oscar or something,
is going to fight for that job. And the catcher, hey, listen, Martin Maldonado has caught a lot of games in the big leagues. He's 39. They'll tell you they have a plan, but no, you're right. I mean, the writing is on the wall that this clearly hasn't been. Maybe the joke is on us when Ken Rosenthal was like, Padres are spending, it's not sustainable. Like, Ken, who are you to say that? And here we are 3 years later. Is he right?
Well, I mean, look, that was said while Peter was alive.
Right.
So I will always say that if Peter were with us, things would not be this way. So back then, when Ken Rosenthal said those things, it was when Peter was with us. And now he looks right, but I can't give him credit because Peter's not here. If Peter were here and they were doing the exact same things, then yeah, I would say, okay, Ken was right all along. But you can't say that now that, because Peter's gone. You just can't. Things are completely different now. But
unfortunately, it's perception reality conversation. People are saying it. People that follow the sport, Dodger fans, people that are baseball fans that don't have the intimate knowledge of the organization think that the Padres used to spend a lot. Now they don't.
But that's also like saying, sorry, our owner died.
No, not really, because even when Darren was here and he'd have Eric Grupner on, there were indicators. Kevin has reported this. Again, we'll never know. It's like the choose your own adventure that I was referenced that only is cool for people like in their 40s.
Right, yes.
We'll never know what Peter would have done. I tend to agree with you, but I don't know if they would have just been high flying like they were in 2021.
We don't know what Peter would have done, but it is really hard to think that this would have been what Peter was going to do.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me flack. Hear me out, and I agree with you with the benefit of hindsight because they won 93 games. But I was like, last year, I'm like, is this a teardown? They lowered $100 million off their payroll in an offseason. It's like unprecedented in the history of the sport. Mm-hmm. And now they backed it up by winning somehow. But now on the other side of it, I'm not saying it is, but like it's at least like a question from the outside. Like, what are they doing?
Let's see here. I saw this. Let's see here. Someone in the chat said that Jeff Passan's trolling us with his last tweet. Jeff Passan said, Jurickson Profar's deal with the Braves is 3 years, $42 million. He'll join blah, blah, blah. From one of the game's best outfields. Braves
awesome.
Well, he's not trolling here. Whatever.
No, I mean, yeah, Michael Harrison, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Jurickson Profar. You've now topped Jurickson Profar and Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill because they don't have Profar here anymore.
Yeah, and Ronald Acuna's an MVP. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, he's right. That's an amazing outfield.
Yeah, you got
and cost effective.
Exactly. Major cost effective.
Let's go to Dave real quick. If you want to weigh in, 877.
Let's hear about the TV deal.
The TV deal is accurate. They don't have one. 877-767-4760. Dave, thanks for calling in to Jon and Jim. Bring back Bally Sports, Dave. Bring back Bally's.
Yes. Bring back Mary Lou's.
Yeah, Jim, I was just going to say I'm not going to pester you anymore about the reality of it all, but that's fine. Look, we're going to miss him, and from an analytical standpoint, he's a 245 lifetime hitter. That's fine, but he was valuable to us. I'm shocked that he got that much money. But having said that, you've got 6 teams eligible for the playoffs. Is that correct? So right now, you'd have to, if you were a betting person, you'd have to say the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, LA, Arizona, and the Brewers. There's your 6. Those are your 6 favorites right there. And I see the Padres way, way back. And so all of this notion that somehow this is a competitive franchise still with what they've got. Look, they're a half-decorated Christmas tree with expensive ornaments on the half that they can't now complete. They've run out of money. You know the reasons. I know the reasons. All I'm going to say is this. They need to sell. And I'm sorry, but it's time to tell the truth. This group is not deep pockets. They cannot compete with the money that they have. It's obvious as the nose on our faces. It's time to call it for what it is. This is an embarrassment.
Thank you, Dave. Strong words. By the way, Jeff Sanders reporting the Padres were never close in talks with Profar. So maybe they had desires to bring him back, but Jeff Sanders reporting at this hour the Padres were never close in re-signing Jurickson Profar. And yeah, he makes a good point. Hey, listen, it's a perfect day to have Dan Zaborski on. He'll tell us the odds of the Padres making the postseason. Are they an underdog to reach the postseason
Mhm.
in 2025? Are they a slight favorite to make the postseason? Do they have a 50-50 shot
Yeah.
to make it? It's not, again, on paper, it doesn't feel like the easiest thing in the world coming off last year.
And I know that if you look at Profar's career numbers, they're nothing special. I mean, he has a 726 OPS lifetime. He's a 98 OPS plus guy.
Yep.
But I'm not looking at those numbers. I'm looking at what he did with the Padres.
Right.
He had he accumulated an 8.2 WAR during his time here at the Padres. He had an OPS plus here of 113. That's pretty good. That's above league average.
It's 13% better than league average. It's very good.
And he had an OPS of 753.
That's good.
Well, everywhere else it was 708, 711, and 680. So he thrived here in San Diego. He outperformed his career averages by a lot here in San Diego. And he brought so much to the table that you can't see in a box score, that you can't see with OPSs and batting averages and everything else. That's why he was so valuable to this team. And the fact that you lose out on him because you can't pay him, what, $40 million a year?
Well, not a year.
Or sorry, $40 million over 3 years? It's a really bad look, and this is going to really hurt the Padres this season, in my opinion.
All right. Is this a Padres problem or a baseball problem? What's going on right now with spending and payroll? Is this a Padres specific problem?
Oh, this is Padres, bro.
Or a baseball problem? It's called tease. Answer it on the other side, you idiot.
Sorry.
877-767-4760. We'll get your calls coming up next. Jon and Jim. Fire Aid benefit concert happening a week from tonight, Thursday, January 30th. Broadcast at iHeartRadio stations nationwide and on the free iHeartRadio app. Thursday, January 30th. For donations and concert information, visit fireaidla.org. That's fireaidla.org. We're reacting to the news that Jurickson Profar signed a 3-year, $42 million deal to go to the Atlanta Braves, coming off a career year, a 4-WAR season for Profar in a Padres uniform. It coincides with Jeff Passan writing an article today about the Dodgers spending and the complaints around baseball about their last 18 months from last offseason through this offseason. He said the basic premise, it's not a Dodger problem. Baseball created it. The Dodgers have taken advantage of it. They're spending within the rules. Other teams aren't. It's creating all types of issues, potentially, like people believing that the season's over before it has started. I don't believe that. But I think there are some people that think that season's over before it starts. All the Dodgers do is reload. But that's why I went to break by saying, is this a San Diego thing going on right now? We're so hyper-focused on it. Or is it an LA versus the world thing that's going on right now?
Did you read that whole article?
I read the entire article. It wasn't that long in the end.
Surprising.
I know. I thought it was going to be longer. It was a couple thousand words probably.
When Jeff Passan writes an article, Jeff Passan's great. Usually it takes you about 10, 15 minutes potentially to read that article.
It wasn't short, but it wasn't crazy.
How long it is.
Yeah.
I would be on that side of it is not a Dodger problem. Now they are taking advantage of rules and stretching those advantages beyond what any other team could do. But they are also in their right to do what they're doing. There's no rule that says they can't do what they're doing. And so when you're saying that the Dodgers bad for baseball, no, they're doing what they're supposed to do.
So baseball is bad for baseball. They set up the system to fail a majority of the clubs.
Yeah, there is no way I'm sitting here after Jurickson Profar just signed a very fair deal with Atlanta and blaming the Dodgers for this or saying because of this and whatever and the TV deal. Like, no, I am putting the sole blame on the reason why Jurickson Profar is not a Padres uniform anymore directly on the San Diego Padres. And their ownership, whoever that is right now, decide their bros, that falls on them because they aren't willing to spend the money. And because they're not willing to spend the money, you just lost out on bringing back a extremely important piece to your baseball team that helped you win 93 games last year on a very fair deal. You said, nah, no thanks. And you weren't even close. And you lost a guy that brought so much to the table. He, honestly, to me, was the heart and soul of the team last year. He has been the heart and soul of the team in 2022 and in 2024. 2020, when they went to the postseason in that fake year, he was also a big part of that team as well.
Mm-hmm.
He is a guy that I just felt this whole offseason, how it was going, they could not afford to lose. And guess what? They lost him.
No, I mean, spot on. I'm just saying, like, is this solely a Padre thing? We spent so much time with the Padres, but the Twins haven't spent a dime. 10 of these teams haven't done anything. Atlanta hadn't done much until
I don't really
right
care
now.
about the other teams, though.
But the sport does.
I know.
I mean, it's not just, there's not two teams in the sport. It's not LA and San Diego. LA's done everything. San Diego's done nothing. I guess my point is, has LA done everything and everyone else done nothing?
But you know why I don't put the Padres in that category is because they were spending.
Right.
And now they're not. And it's very easy to put two and two together why they're not.
So the Dodgers are doing it, but okay. So let me just lay this out because I haven't even made for my opinion on it. The Dodgers, it's all above board. It is what it is. It's within the rules. And the other teams either need to catch up or baseball needs to change the rules to allow the other teams to catch up to the Dodgers or teams that spend the way they spend.
Yeah, there needs to be a better system in place where teams have
caps
money and all this stuff. Like Anthony Santander deferred $60 million of his $90 million contract.
Right.
That just proves that, guess what? Any team,
I mean, I still go back. The Ohtani deferral, and Passan wrote about it. I mean, everyone's still up in arms about that. I mean, even without the deferrals, it's actually $46 million a year, not $70. And they say they're making over $100 million a year off his contract. And they're paying him $2 million a year right now, but $46 eventually.
Well,
let's go to the phone.
That's Ohtani. You can't really
I know. But again, like you took advantage of the rules with the best player in the sport.
Yeah. And that's the Dodgers. But I'm more focused on the Padres and that they're not spending money when we know they could, and they're not.
Yeah, I don't know if they can. What do you mean we know they could when they haven't spent a penny?
Because they did when Peter was here.
Siler Bros ain't Peter.
So
that's why you've been advocating, and others have as well. Hey, sell the team if you can't keep this train on the track.
Yeah.
It's not Peter anymore. Just because they share the same last name, your brother shares the last name with you. He likes the Lakers.
Actually, he doesn't.
Whatever. He's your brother.
It's true.
Let's go to the phones. 877-767-4760. David, you're on with John and Jim.
All right. Thanks again for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Another disappointing day in this offseason. And I do want to comment on what you guys were saying. Like, we don't know what it would be like if Peter was here, even though Grupner was saying they might have to cut back anyways. I'll just say that maybe that would have been the plan with Peter, but as we saw in 2022, they were trying to stay under the luxury tax, and then they were having a good year, and they thought Tatis was coming back, so they decided to go over it to get Soto at the deadline. Peter would have changed if he saw a chance at a championship, and they were so close last year. And to not bring Profar back, like, come on, you had to do that. These brothers are a joke. Like you guys said, like, we're screwed unless Kirsten Ellis is Jackson Merrill, and he's not Jackson Merrill. He's been in the minor leagues way longer, despite being 3 years older. I mean, this is just a joke, and sell the freaking team. I mean, when Dan Snyder bought Washington, he bought them for $800 million, which was a record at the time. That's about $1.5 billion today's number. He sold them for $6 billion. If it's sold, it's going to be sold to somebody who's serious about winning because they're stupid rich. That's what I got to say.
I mean, this is becoming a sum of the narrative with our listeners. Again, I don't think you're hearing this same type of conversation truthfully around town. And that's why I think a lot of people are coming here, because we're telling it to you truthfully and honestly. But there's a narrative out there, and it's not just David. It's not just Dave. It's not just John and Jim to some degree. There's this belief out there that if they can't win at the highest level, then go find someone that can help them win at the highest level. Right?
Yeah. This is not honoring Peter's legacy. It's not. It's not. David makes a great point. 2022, they saw an opportunity with Juan Soto. They pushed that limit, and they went over the CBT to get Juan Soto to win, and they did. They won the NLCS. I will continue to say, like, if Peter was here, these things would not be happening.
Right?
They just wouldn't. I'm like,
I know,
fairly confident in that. And with that being said, that is why now you have to seriously consider maybe we should sell, because guess what? You're going to get backlash from the fans tenfold if this continues, where you're continuing to slash payroll. And if you don't win, that's going to be the ultimate kicker here. You got to win and everything's fine. But if you don't win, coupled with your slashing payroll, coupled with your losing out on players when they're not really making a bunch of money, with you're trying to trade guys that are important pieces because you can't re-sign them, like, you are going to lose a lot of your fan base. The place will still sell out for the foreseeable future, but eventually it ain't going to be pretty.
But it's truck day. The baseballs and bats are on their way to Peoria now to go see Padres spring training baseball. All right, we're going to hear from Andrew Friedman on Roki signing on the other side, and we continue to react to the news that isn't good, that Jurickson Profar is on his way to Atlanta to be a Brave. We want to hear from you. 877-767-4760, plus Dan Zimborski from Fangraphs will join us at 3:30 here on John and Jim.
The recent wildfires that ravaged Los Angeles now account
All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. Breaking news in baseball. Jurickson Profar and the Atlanta Braves have agreed to a 3 years, $42 million contract. The Padres now without a left fielder. We'll have to search for one for opening day. Moving over to San Diego State last night, they avoided disaster with a game-winning layup in overtime by Wayne McKinney. Aztecs beat Air Force. They move on to take on Nevada this Saturday night on the road. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. Tonight's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson are finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
Getting you all set for that drive home.
Thank the Lord they didn't sign him. If he came in the studio and took a photo with us, you would look like you're like 2 inches tall, man.
What is this?
A center for ants.
You're like, what's that movie? Honey, I Shrunk the Gym. And John.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
You son of a...
I mean, we'd be tiny.
Dude, he is
We'd be like
massive.
hitting the ceiling in here. No wonder he throws 100 miles an hour.
Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, 1015, Channel 2 for HD Radio. We're on YouTube. We're at sportssd.com. And again, on the iHeartRadio app, we're reacting to Jurickson Profar, 3 years, $42 million to the Atlanta Braves. We were just joking off air. Who's Profar picking a fight with on the Padres on opening day?
Oh, dude.
Like, is that dynamic going to play out in that? Is it a 3 or 4 game series? I think it's a 4 game
it's a 4-game series.
Over those 4 games, you know what's happening. The guy gets hit constantly. He's going to get hit on the knee. He's going to take exception to it. He's going to go down to first base, be like chirping to Jake Cronenworth for some reason. And all of a sudden the benches are going to clear. It's going to be the 3rd inning on March 27th.
He hits a home run round in third base. He's like flipping off Manny. Dude.
He's getting booed.
Oh, my gosh.
That's not going to happen, is it?
It won't happen. But it is the type of like grit and edge that Profar brings to a team that the Padres now do not have.
Yeah, I wonder who fills that void. Like, I thought Jackson Merrill was a pretty good leader for being a rookie.
It's hard to do that when you're a rookie, dude.
I know, but now he's not.
But still, you're not like a vet like
qualities.
Profar. Profar was 10 years in.
I know, but Merrill did more in year 1 than Profar had done.
True.
To that point.
True.
But no, you're right. Someone's got to fill the void. I don't think it's an easy guy to replace. And I think that's why they had desires to bring him back, although Jeff Sanders reported they were never close.
Also, weird comment, I guess, in the his piece about Profar.
Okay.
Listen to this.
This is Jeff Sanders?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the current opening day projection sits at $196.9 million, with the team still needing at least a replacement for Profar in left field, rotation depth to make up for losing Joe Musgrove to Tommy John surgery, and catching help to pair with Luis Campisano.
Mm-hmm.
This is the interesting part. Complicating matters, Sheil Seidler, the widow of former Padres chairman Peter Seidler, has sued her brothers-in-law to contest control of the team.
Her brothers-in-law
to contest control of the team.
I think he's just throwing that in like, hey, by the way, the backdrop is there's
like,
a lawsuit.
by the way, there's a lawsuit.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, no, you make a good point.
It's kind of weird, right?
Well, okay, let's
fault. What?
No, you're right. That is a little odd. But okay, let's do the math here. Their payroll last year was 184. Their payroll right now is 197. You know what's more than 184? 197.
Oh.
Do you know what's more than $1 million? 14.
Mm-hmm.
They paid Jurickson last year 1. He's now going to get 14. They're already 13 or 14 million more than they were spending last year. I still don't know how they're going to make this work. This is why Dennis Lin was writing yesterday in The Athletic about this possible Christian Vasquez deal that could involve Dylan Cease, that there's a belief in the industry the Padres will be required to eventually lower their payroll back to 2024. And right now they're 13 or 14 heavy. Guess who makes 13 or 14? Cease.
Yeah.
And there's others, Arise. But like, they're going to shed. They're going to shed before they add. They're going to shed payroll.
Yeah, it feels like it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of the argument? It's hard to like justify giving Profar this deal when you got the production from him last year for only $1 million.
No. Yeah, no. That's like saying you had Soto for 30 last year, and now you're paying him 70. I don't know what they're paying him per year. Like, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
cost of doing business.
It is. And when you look at his production, what he gave you, if he can continue anywhere near that, $14 million feels like a pretty good deal.
Very reasonable.
And it seems very fair. If you can't operate with having your left fielder making $14 million a year, then you got bigger problems at hand, which they do.
Yeah, they do. Remember, like a couple of years ago, we're like, they're not going to have free agents at all positions. And Profar is not. I mean, he's a free agent, right? Yeah, you've seen him a lot in San Diego, but it's like, it's just not going to work here. And it's playing out. I'm with you. Is Peter Seidler's passing a part of the reason why it's not working here? Yes. But you just add the dollars up, like Tatis's contract and Machado's contract, and they're not going to go double down on free agency for every position player on their team. And now it's Tirso or Nealis or whomever the SpongeBob SquarePants guy is.
Well, you know that the some of the players that they've signed to these minor league deals are going to be on this 26-man roster. It's no coincidence that all of these moves that Preller has made this offseason have all been for minor league contracts because it's the cheapest way to go. And so going into next season, Tirso or Nealis, like he's going to probably get first crack at left field. That's just my guess now. SpongeBob SquarePants guy, Oscar, whatever, he's going to get a shot in left field. Is that good enough? On paper, no.
What about, have they addressed like shortstop? Or are we just assuming that Cronenworth and Arise and Bogarts all are here, and so they'll just
I guess
that figures that self out.
Tyler Wadey in the mix.
Right, it's your utility. He's your super utility.
Yeah.
Catcher, as Jeff Sanders wrote about, back of rotation.
Yeah.
Are they even going to fill that, though? When they say, well, we have depth, Randy Vasquez, and Johnny Brito, and Matt Waldron.
Yeah. Like, the I guess, take of, well, you got what you got out of Profar for $1 million, so it's easy to walk away. No, shut up. That's stupid. The guy was so important to this team. There's a reason why everybody wanted him back. This is not a case like Higashioka where you look at it and you go, it sucks, but you also got a career year from him at that price point, and he's 30-something, 35 years old. Like, okay, and you move on. Like, you're not sitting there bitching and complaining about them not bringing back Kyle Higashioka. You will be upset, and you probably will pay the price for not bringing back Jurickson Profar. Hope I'm wrong, but from the jump, you have lost that edge about your team that was so important to you last year. And it's the intangibles that I'll continue to talk about that you are losing, that you don't have anybody on the team to fill that void right now, in my opinion.
And also, so a day ago, this guy's a fan favorite, and now we're going to all bet on him not to be productive. That's not a good way to be a fan, as in,
like,
he might not. By the way, he might hit 240 and he might hit 11 home runs, and he may take a step back. Maybe there's a regression to the mean. And if that happens, then AJ Preller will look the wiser, and so will the organization, although we'll see about years 2 and 3 of the deal. But, I mean, are you really rooting for Jurickson Profar to fall on his face? And if last year's any indication, by the way, it should be a very good one because he just did it last year. If last year's an indication, he'll likely be productive. Maybe not to the same level of productivity, but he'll likely be productive. And now the Padres, you've said this a lot. Last year, they had the complete roster by and large. This year, we're back to this top-heavy BS, where your top 4 is great.
Mm-hmm.
But Profar was a part of that deep lineup a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tirso or Nealis and SpongeBob guy are a part of your deep lineup in 2025. Again, Joe Musgrove was in your rotation to start last year. Roki Sasaki would have been useful to fill out your rotation. It's just, it feels like you're going back. You're reverting to top-heavy rosters as opposed to completed rosters like 2024. That was his most complete roster. It's going to be really hard to emulate that.
Because you know what Profar brought to, when from a number standpoint?
Okay.
An on-base percentage of 350.
Yeah, so he was on base a lot.
That was his career on-base percentage with the Padres.
Okay.
Not in his career, but with the Padres.
What was it last year?
Last year was 380.
I was going to say that's really, really good.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Leadoff hitter qualities.
Oh, right. He always gave you a really good at bat.
Yep.
And
he really did have some good at bats.
And looking at the advanced numbers, and a lot of people that know more baseball than I ever will, said that, hey, this feels kind of sustainable here. Like, looking at these advanced numbers from Profar, it feels sustainable. And if that's the case, then it's going to hurt even more if he goes out and puts together a really good season with the Braves next year. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But what I do know is all he's done in a Padres uniform is put together quality good seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if he goes with Atlanta and he sucks, okay, that's fine. And then I'm sure everybody will be like, well, glad we didn't give him that deal.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll feel, if you're the Padres front office, you'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that in a Padres uniform, he put together good seasons, and he always gave you good at bats, and he was on base at a high clip, and he brought grit, and he brought an edge to the team. That's all I cared about, and you just lost that.
Here's what I also know. The perception is they don't have money to retain their roster, and it's now playing out, and you just lost a fan favorite. You're already in the midst of this legal battle between the Seidler bros that nobody knows anything about and Sheil Seidler, who is a fan favorite because she's the widow of Peter. So you have all of this playing out. You have negative publicity around your organization, and you have just lost a fan favorite as well. Like, it's only furthering the narrative that your house is not in order. This was always going to be a bad day for the Padres if they lost Jurickson Profar. He's such a favorite. People were passionate supporters of his. I get it. He's not Manny Machado. He's never going to make $300 million. He's not going to the Hall of Fame. He's not Fernando Tatis Jr. But this guy's the true fan favorite. You're losing fan favorites left and right. I'm not saying re-sign guys just because the fans like him. I'm not saying Hassan Kim has to be here. But you're losing fan favorites left and right.
Yeah, they are. And they're going to win games next year. They're going to go out and they're going to have games where they look really good. And they're going to have games that look really bad. That's what happens in the course of a baseball season. But to think that right now this team can replicate what they did last year, that's I don't know about that one, because they have a lot of work to do. And so far, nothing's been done. Nothing. You have a lot of work and nothing's been done, and the trucks have left today for Peoria.
With the baseballs and the bats. How many times have I said I'm not going to put this on AJ? I can't do that.
I'm not either.
I can't put their lack of spending on the general manager. He doesn't create the budget.
Because it's hard to put on a guy that has shown that he can go out there and make a lot of moves. You think AJ Preller is happy that he hasn't made any moves this offseason? Like at the major league level?
I don't think so.
He's probably livid. And he's probably staying up even later at night thinking of different ways to make moves it's now in the parameters that he has been given by the Seidler bros.
It's all trade, but we've talked about this. They've gone to the trade well so often that there's only so much in your system you're willing to give up that it's hard to find suitors. And by the way, he's also known as being a savvy, GM via trade. So, I mean, you got to be careful too if you're the other side,
right?
In dealing with AJ, he's pulled off some good. I mean, the Cease and the Arise and Snell and Musgrove and Darvish and so on and so forth, right? I mean, he's done well.
He's done well. And there's one move that we haven't really dove into much today, but the move of Dylan Cease and the Twins being a possibility, that was like the big talking point that we were going to talk about with today's show. And hell, if that happens, it's really hard for you to go out there and try to sell this as like a good thing on day one. If that does truly happen.
Let's talk about that reporting in The Athletic within the last 24 hours on the possibility of Dylan Cease being moved. What does that mean? What's the latest there? Plus Dan Szymborski, Fangraphs, great with projections. What's the impact of Jurickson Profar leaving San Diego? He'll join us at 3:30. We've got great giveaways today. We're going to give away a pair of Aztec tickets for next week later this hour for Tuesday night against San Jose State. So stay with us on Jon and Jim.
San Diego Sports Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
In La Jolla, North
All right, Dan Zaborski, Fangraphs will join us at 3:30. We have Aztec basketball tickets for Tuesday night against San Jose State back at Viejas that we'll give away as well coming up later this hour. So Dennis Lin writes last night in The Athletic, like an actual rumor, right, that the Padres and Twins have talked about Twins veteran catcher Christian Vasquez coming off a down year. Now, you further read in the article, and the trade would also center around Dylan Cease.
What?
So your initial reaction is like, well, get the heck out of here. But the more you think about it, what we've been talking about, well, they need to lower payroll. It would be more than just Christian Vasquez, obviously, in your return. I mean, hopefully be able to address additional needs. Now, Vasquez is only making $10 million next year. Then he's a free agent. Obviously, it's an upgrade over Campy, but I mean, the texter made a good point here. Was it 503? Like, if you're going to trade for Vasquez, why don't you just sign Kyle Higashioka?
Yeah.
Why would you trade Dylan Cease for Christian Vasquez if you could just get a cheaper catcher than Vasquez who had more productivity?
A guy that has been here and
it worked out.
So later on in the article, it says the Padres would like to keep Cease, but some rival officials believe President of Baseball Operations, AJ Preller, ultimately will have little choice but to move the pending free agent and his $13.75 million salary.
Right.
And that they're searching for another catcher. Like, I mean, if you're trading Dylan Cease in a deal and your big player that you get back is Christian Vasquez, you got problems. Now, also in this piece, they talk about, well, there's concern and talks about how much money of Christian Vasquez contract with the Padres absorb.
Well, that's interesting. So they're taking the Cease money and paying some of Vasquez money, and you're getting him on the cheap.
Yeah.
But that's not enough of a reason to trade Dylan Cease.
No, if you're trading Dylan Cease, you want to get young, controllable pieces.
Yeah. And I'm sure they would.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
It's not a straight up 35-year-old catcher coming off a down year.
Right.
For a year of control of Dylan Cease.
But it mainly shows here in this article that the Padres just do not trust Luis Campusano, and I don't blame them because I don't think anybody trusts him. He has been given so many opportunities, and he has been replaced very quickly right after he was given an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If they do trade Dylan Cease, it better be for some young, controllable prospects. And if you do get back Christian Vasquez in the deal, okay, you got a major league catcher in that deal, but you also better get something else that is more valuable than Christian Vasquez in that deal. Because if you don't, then this will be perceived as a money dump, and that you are shedding money, and you happen to get a major league catcher back and maybe another piece or so or whatever. But all in all, we did this to really shed some money.
Yeah, you can't shed money. Like, your motivation with Cease, if you're moving him, is to at least try to address needs / get better. Like, I was sold that bill of goods on Soto. They traded Soto. They freed up payroll. They addressed needs. Okay, so it was a combination of payroll and needs. The primary concern with moving Cease can't be just shedding payroll. You have to truly address needs. And that's not Christian Vasquez. It's not, hey, one of our needs was catcher. Yeah, but now you just trade away one of your really good starting pitchers who was top 5 in Cy Young. So obviously the deal is for more than Christian Vasquez. The Twins system may be loaded. I know nothing about it. Well, so I'm sure it involved. The centerpiece of the deal probably wouldn't even be Christian Vasquez.
It says here later in the article, the Twins would prefer to provide a value-laden package to replenish the Padres' depth as opposed to the higher upside talent that Preller likes to hunt.
Right. So, okay. So maybe not then. So as opposed to getting this premier top flight talent, maybe you're getting a slew of top 20 prospects.
Yeah, I'm not cool with that.
Again, are they helping you in 2025? The answer is no. Because Dylan Cease is.
What are the odds that some middling talent you'll ever hear from? Probably not very high.
Right.
The one thing Preller does a really good job at is he draws a line. I've said this before, draws a line in that sand, and he does not cross it. He asks for what he wants, and if he's not going to get that, he walks away.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the Juan Soto deal, he said, I am not giving you Juan Soto unless you give me Michael King. Just that's it. I am not trading you Juan Soto unless I get Michael King. He got Michael King. He also got other, Drew Thorpe, Randy Vasquez, Higgy, Johnny Brito. He got what he wanted in that deal. He drew the line in that sand and he said, look, if this is not going to involve X player, Y player, and Z player, then we are not making this deal happen. So if the Twins want to try to do a deal based around Dylan Cease and give Preller a bunch of middling level prospects and then Christian Vasquez, I guarantee you AJ Preller's not going to do that.
True, but at some point, if the Padres are going to have to make a move to shed payroll, I do wonder what they're going to be. Are they going to be in a corner or not? Because are they going to go into the season with a payroll $15 million higher than they did last year?
Well, then why does Preller want to even do this anymore?
Or you think he's just going to want? I mean, because we don't truly know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know how this all lands when the music stops.
I'm just saying, like, if
I've said it before.
This is not Preller.
I've said it before. I mean,
Preller.
When people wanted Preller to walk, I'm like, be careful what's on the other side, because I don't think it's the desirable job that people think that it is when you have these payroll constraints and you've tied up a lot of money in a very few number of players.
And I've given Preller a lot of crap, and he's deserved it when criticism came. But he has also shown that he can put together some very savvy deals and also be very creative. And last year was an absolute home run year for AJ. And now he has to, be handcuffed here.
I hear you. I do. I hear you. All right, Dan Szymborski, what's it all mean? What do the projections look like for next year? He's with Fangraphs. Dan Szymborski, friend of the show, joins us next. Jon and Jim.
The BMP
This update is brought to you by Lowe's. Breaking news of the day. Jurickson Profar and the Atlanta Braves have agreed to a 3-year, $42 million contract. Padres will now be looking for a brand new left fielder. San Diego State avoiding disaster last night as they beat Air Force on a game-winning layup by Wayne McKinney. Next up, the Aztecs will take on Nevada Saturday night on the road. You can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. Tonight is the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson, they're finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
All right, this is a perfect day to get Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs back on the show. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Dan, we appreciate you taking time. Obviously, the big news over the offseason now, or recently, was Roki, but we found out within the hour or so about Jurickson Profar. And I know you do the projections at Fangraphs, and I don't know where you are with spring training still about 3 weeks away. But are there Zips projections yet out? And what does it look like from like the NL West perspective as you lay out the Dodgers and the Padres specifically for 2025? And thanks for hopping on.
Well, I haven't done the final projections yet, or the preliminary final projections. Okay. The Padres generally project as the second best team in the NL West. I think we can guess what the first best team is
Rockies.
In the NL West, at least in the projections. Oh, yeah, the Rockies. It's going to be big times for the Rockies. Herman Marquez going to win 25 games. No, the Padres are competitive, but the Dodgers have done a lot. They've improved kind of their downside. It's a pretty stacked team, although there are weaknesses.
When you look at the deal that Profar just got, 3 years, $42 million, according to his projections, do you feel like that's a fair deal for him?
That's about right on target. He's kind of a league average-ish corner outfielder. Obviously, he was better than that in 2024, but teams pay for the future, not the past. No one wants to pay for 2024 unless they're going to get that in 2025. And he was terrible in 2023. He was down in 2021. He had a decent 2022. But even though he had a star level 2024, teams weren't going to pay based on that. And you see that a lot with players who don't have a lot of defensive value. You see the Pete Alonso market not really developing. You see Christian Walker just getting an ordinary deal. So that's about the market value for Profar.
Dan Szymborski, Fangraphs, with us right now, Jon and Jim. So, in your opinion, is this a miss for the Padres? As in, this won't be easily replicatable, so to speak, right? For AJ Preller to find someone. Now, again, to your point, maybe Profar can't replicate it either. But how does Preller make up for the lost production of Profar?
Well, the problem is, on some level, they were always going to have to make up some of it. If you think of him as a 4-win player last year, he was probably going to be a 2-win player this year. So you're already going into an offseason, even if he comes back, having to replace those wins. So then the question becomes, do you make a trade? Is there something you can work out with another team? Or do you have to look at what's remaining in free agency? And there's not a lot out there anymore in free agency. It's kind of dwindled considerably. Anthony Santander was one of the last really exciting free agents. Now you're down to kind of the Alex Verdugo tier, which isn't that exciting. Austin Hayes, Harrison Bader. It's not a deep market. I would probably want to look for a trade first if you can wing that kind of thing, if you have the right matchup with another team. But I'm not sure that they really can do that much in free agency at this point.
Sounds promising. Moving over to Michael King, he's about to go to arbitration with the Padres. It's the first time a player has gone to arbitration with AJ Preller as their general manager. But when the biggest thing here is like the projections for Michael King, it's hard to project because there's really not many players to compare him to. So when you look at Michael King and his outlook here for next season and into free agency, what type of deal would he garner if he was a free agent at this very moment in time?
I think he'd get a really, not a Blake Snell-esque deal or anything. That would be kind of a little silly to project that, but he would get a pretty substantial offer because the Padres took the gamble in making him converting him back into a full-time starter, and it worked out incredibly well. You could say that he was a little version of Crochet last year, because even though he didn't get quite the press that Crochet did, he actually did the similar thing. He came back from relief to go back into starting and was very good. And he's going to be looking at a substantial offer. And I'm not sure that the Padres, if they really want to try to not get too far past where their payroll is now, I don't know how they work that out. That's an interesting problem, I guess.
It's become really kind of the problem of the offseason. Like, how do they sustain the success they had in 2024, even in 2025, if they're trying to shed payroll coming off a 93-win season, which was their most regular season wins since 1998. Now, obviously here, Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs is with us. I'm Jon and Jim. As you know, the Roki Sasaki saga played out in Southern California all offseason. A lot of people thought he was going to end up potentially in San Diego. Ultimately, the favorite lands him in the Dodgers. What are the projections on Sasaki from day one in the major leagues?
They're not quite. They're more on the level, at least from my projections. They're on the level of Imanaga, who Zips really did like, but not quite on Yamamoto's level. He's not quite as finished a product, not quite as polished. So there is some risk there, but any team who could get him wanted him for very good reason. The interesting thing about the Dodgers is they actually still don't project as well as they did going into 2021. There are some downsides to the team. They have pretty incredible depth at this point, especially in the starting pitching when you look at the arms they have around. But you look at that offense, and there is some risk there, not because the guys aren't very good, but you do have a team that their core is kind of getting past 30 into their declining years. So it's not a lot, but this is not an invincible team.
Well, I like hearing that, even though on paper it seems like they're going to win 130 games. And
well, quick on that, because Dan came on last year, and we were like, this division's over, right? And this was later when you had the projections. Like, no, not really. There's like an 80 to 90% chance, but that leaves like a 10 or 20% outlier.
Yeah.
And then we were talking. I mean, we're in the middle of September. The Padres, I mean, they finished 5 fewer wins than LA.
So yeah, 98, 93. Yeah.
You know, so like again, you don't have it yet, Dan, but I mean, they're not going to be a 99% chance of winning the division, right, heading into the season, or will they?
No, nobody really is, unless you take a major league team and put them in AAA or something.
Right.
People tend to underestimate the risks that any team, any player has.
Right.
And that's where you see these things happen, where things just fall apart. It hasn't happened to the Dodgers yet. And what they've done, some of these signings they've made, Sasaki, the relievers, it's not so much increasing their top end win count, because they've kind of reached that point where they have diminishing marginal returns from every additional player they add, because you can't start 12 guys. What they've done is they've kind of limited their floor, so to speak. There's almost no chance to say that they only go like 80 and 82 or something. Their depth is just too much for that. So that's a very low chance. They've insulated themselves. But this isn't a team that's going to go into the season projected to win 115 games or anything crazy like that. The Padres will enter the season with a realistic but a significant underdog chance of winning the division.
Jackson Merrill put together an amazing season last year. Coming up on his sophomore season, we saw a massive dip with Corbin Carroll, a guy that had a breakout rookie year, and his sophomore season was not good. Do you have any concern about that happening with Jackson Merrill going into his sophomore year here in San Diego?
I wouldn't call it concern. It's, people call it the sophomore slump, but that's not really a thing. What you tend to happen is that the guys who had the best rookie seasons are probably the ones that had the most things go their way, because unlucky rookies end up in AAA after hitting 100 for the first couple weeks of the season, which is, say, Jackson Holiday. So you could look at Merrill, and it's likely his numbers will regress toward the mean a little bit, but he should still be a really, really good player and continue improving from that point. You see that a lot. You see players who take steps forward do take steps back. I ran the numbers a few weeks ago, and if you look at all the players under 25 who had 4 award seasons, more than 70% of them had significantly worse performance the following season. It's just the way it is. So Merrill's, probably a 3-win or a 4-win player, so it shouldn't be taken as as a slight on him if he takes a small step back, because he is going to be a big piece of the Padres for a long time.
Final one for me, Dan, is on Dylan Cease, because a year ago, it would have been hard for me to believe that you can trade Juan Soto and get quote unquote better, but they did. They won 93 games. They got to the NLDS. I mean, can they move Dylan Cease in an effort to shed payroll and then replicate that? Can they move Dylan Cease and get better?
They might be able to. I don't know if they could get better in 2025 by trading Cease. I think that the Soto trade worked out about as well as any trade of that type can work out. You're not going to probably, land on the free parking on Monopoly every time like they did with Michael King last year. But I think what they had to do is they had to look at their payroll long term and see where their needs are and how much they can spend. Because one of the problems the Padres had is they kind of hit the maximum payroll they wanted to spend like halfway through their contention window. And what happens, generally speaking, with the team that's in contention is that team gets more and more expensive. Their young players hit arbitration. Their players in arbitration hit free agency, and they had to make hard decisions. They didn't really leave a top for them to go to. They didn't leave money reinforcements, so to speak. There is a way they can get better, but it might not necessarily be for 2025.
Great insight. As always, we love having you on. Dan Szymborski, baseball's coming. The Padres truck is left for Peoria. Yeah. We'll see how many wins are inside that truck in 2025. Dan, thanks for hopping on in San Diego. We'll do it again soon, all right?
Always fun, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff from Dan Szymborski. We will react to that.
It's at least a 4-war bus.
Yes. Well, hopefully. So what, with Jackson Merrill?
No, it's a joke that fell flat.
Yeah, it really did. All right, we'll react to Dan Szymborski on the other side. Plus, Chris Hodge from Taking Vegas. Free picks for championship weekend. He'll join us in the 4 o'clock hour. And how about this? On the other side, don't go anywhere. Let's give away Aztec basketball tickets for Tuesday night.
And we haven't even talked about that game last night either.
But we will. We have 4 hours. We're here until 6. It's Jon and Jim. Picks for our listeners coming up at 4 p.m. Championship weekend is here. That's crazy. We do have some announcements here regarding fires in Southern California, specifically here in San Diego. More information, of course, on Kogo, our sister station, AM 600. Crews have responded to a fire that erupted in La Jolla today. It's prompted evacuations in the area. The blaze was reported in the area of Gilman and Villa Alicante around 2:30. This is being dubbed the Gilman Fire. It has a moderate rate of spread. Evacuation orders have been issued for the area bordered by La Jolla Village Drive to the north, La Jolla Parkway to the south, Gilman Drive to the east, Torrey Pines Road to the west. The golf event was halted due to winds, not fire. Okay.
They have resumed now, just recently at 3:30.
I lived on La Jolla Village Drive. You know where this is? The Whole Foods, Ralph's shopping centers across the way on La Jolla Village Drive.
I know exactly where that is. I used to live over near Cardiff area, so I know.
Yeah, this is one of the more heavily populated areas in San Diego County that is not downtown. Like the UTC thoroughfare is one of the more heavily populated areas. So stay safe. Fires throughout Southern California continue here in January. More information at AM 600 Kogo if you're looking for it.
And thankfully, there's a 75% chance of rain on Sunday.
Can we get that to be 100? Because you're right. We could use rain.
We could use some rain.
A lot of people could use rain.
And thank you.
Pray for rain. All right, Chris Hodge is going to join us coming up at 4 p.m. I thought the most fascinating thing said by Dan Szymborski, kind of confirming what everyone always says, but you say it anecdotally, which is like, oh, sophomore slump. But didn't he say 70% of second-year MLBers take a step back in WAR?
He did say that, John.
70% of second-year big leaguers, I think position players, take a step back in WAR.
Not surprised at all by that number. Because, I mean, when do you see a rookie who bursts on the scene and has an incredible rookie year follow that up with an even better season?
Right. I mean, some like future Hall of Famers probably.
Well, Ichiro, the guy that got inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Although Ichiro's rookie year was MVP year.
But still, he followed. I mean, it was a probably down year for him, but also he was an all-star and a Gold Glover and led the league in hits. You know, like
I'm sure Mike Trout, once he was fully up, his second year was pretty damn good.
Yeah, those are Hall of Famers. Though.
Exactly.
Like you said. So if Jackson takes a step back next year, which is very likely.
Wait, time out real quick. Ichiro went from 7.7 rookie year, 7.7 WAR MVP.
Is that good?
To 3.6. I mean, that's a significant. Now, it's still awesome. 4 WAR season.
What was Jackson's WAR last year?
It was awesome, wasn't it? It was over 4, I think. Let's see. Jackson Merrill's 4.4. So you take, 30%. I mean, you go from 4.5 to 3, 4.5 to 2.5, plus no Profar that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. So you're already making up for his lost 4 WAR.
And you can't really afford to have Jackson have a down year. Like if he's in the middle of the season hitting 240 with like 8 home runs and like 35 RBIs with an OPS of like 720.
Right. So you're almost counting on him to do more because you have less.
Yes, because you need him to maintain that level of play next year. If you just lost, which you did, an all-star left fielder, and if you're not going to get that production in left field next year, then you need to maintain that production in center, and you also need to have a better year from Tatis. Tatis needs to stay healthy. If Jackson takes a step back, okay, so be it. But Tatis needs to be healthy then. If Jackson takes a step back, but Tatis is healthy and hits 38 home runs for you, then it like kind of evens out the production between Tatis and Merrill.
Right.
But if Merrill's going to take a step back and Tatis can't stay healthy again, like that is going to be a big problem.
Well, someone that is maybe one day destined for Cooperstown is going to have to play like it. I'm not even saying Machado. I'm like, Tatis, go hit the 40 home runs you hit 4 years ago. Manny, go have a career year as a 31, 32-year-old. It's possible. Jackson Merrill, maybe you follow suit with the year. But you're right. I mean, if Merrill doesn't do it and you don't have Profar, like somebody's going to have to like take matters into their own hands. Xander Bogaerts, go be the all-star caliber player you were in Boston.
That's a huge question mark.
But someone's got to do it.
It's a big if. And hearing Preller talk during his post-year press conference, that was the one thing that stood out to me the most, is him saying they expect Xander to return to his all-star form.
Right.
Meaning,
They
if
need
he
it.
doesn't, that's a problem. And that they need it in the worst way. They signed Profar. No, sorry. Profar's on my mind. They signed Xander to this all-star level contract. You got to be an all-star. You got to give the production of what you're paying the guy. If he's giving you years like this past year for $28 million a season, that's a disaster.
Right.
You got to give this team at least close to what they're paying you. Because if not, then it's just going to hurt. It's going to be a trickle-down effect and hurt everything with your team.
I'm trying to think what else he said. I mean, I thought there was a glimmer of hope, truthfully, like for Padre fans. He's like, listen, the Dodgers are not a 99% favorite to win the division. There's not a 1 in 100 chance. Like, he just said their floor is higher than most floors, but they still have to stay healthy. Their win total is not going to be projected at 115, right? That's not where they are heading into the season. And he also said something that I don't think people are fully convinced of, which is the Padres will enter the year as the second best team in the NL West. Not Arizona and not San Francisco. He said, per his projections, not finalized, the Padres will enter the year as the second best team in the NL West. I feel as if that's significant because, again, oftentimes we're worried about, they've lost this or they haven't added that, but they're retaining their core. I mean, a lot is returning. A lot is returning in 2025.
I said this the other day. Running down the list of the players that are returning, it's a good list. Pitching, Cease, King, Darvish. That's a really good 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, maybe if they return.
If they do. Back into your bullpen. Robert Suarez, Jason Adam, Jeremiah Estrada. Really good. Top 4 of the lineup. Luis Ariz, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado. Really good. And then you have pieces that hopefully have bounce backs in Xander Bogaerts and Jake Cronenworth. That's really good. The problem is the holes they have are craters, like the size of the craters on the moon, because you get left field, catching, bench, back into rotation. Those are big problems. And I don't know if this team can, overcome those problems, because last year the problems this team had with the main pieces were picked up by the other players, the Jackson Merrills, the Kyle Gashiokas, the Matt Waldrons of the world. Like, those guys really picked this team up when they needed it. Now you're asking guys like Tirso Ornelas and Brett Sullivan and whoever else is on their bench to help with picking up that slack, and that's tough.
All right, on the other side, Chris Hodge, who has been scorching hot, is going to join us. He's 12-3 in his last 15 plays on his text line. He had Ohio State in the national championship. So Chris Hodge taking Vegas. We'll make some picks. Championship weekend is here. We'll get into the Aztecs in the 4 o'clock hour. I promised you we'd give away San Diego State basketball tickets. Caller 7, who wants to go Tuesday night? Tuesday night, Viejas Arena, replica jersey night at Viejas Arena. I think I have that right. Is that right?
Sure.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's replica
it.
jersey night.
Yeah, I saw it today.
So let me confirm it. Take it to goaztecs.com. It is. Replica jerseys for the first 5,000 fans. Call right now. Caller 7, you're going. 2 free tickets Tuesday night against San Jose State. 877-767-4760. It's a red out. Fans are encouraged to wear red. Replica jerseys for the first 5,000 fans. 877-767-4760. Chris Hodge will get us ready for championship weekend next.
Hey, it's Fletch, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money
All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. Bad news for the Padres today as a bad offseason gets even worse. Jurickson Profar has signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Atlanta Braves. Moving over to San Diego State basketball last night, they avoided disaster as they beat Air Force on a game-winning layup in overtime by Wayne McKinney. Next up, they'll take on Nevada Saturday night on the road. Tonight, the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson are all finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
Getting you all set for that drive home.
Thank the Lord they didn't sign him. If he came in the studio and took a photo with us, you would look like you're like 2 inches tall, man.
What is this?
A center for ants.
You're like, what's that movie? Honey, I Shrunk the Gym. And John.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
You son of a...
I mean, we'd be tiny.
Dude, he is
We'd be like
massive.
hitting the ceiling in here. No wonder he throws 100 miles an hour.
Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, hour 3, Jon and Jim here until 6 p.m. and the Brian Dutcher Show coming up at 6 as we look back at last night for the Aztecs, look ahead to this weekend for San Diego State. But it's always our pleasure to welcome Chris Hodge back to the show, taking Vegas. This is how red hot Chris is, okay? He's got customers that are being limited at sportsbooks right now, and he's sending me the text because, for example, off the text line, he's 12-3 over his last 15 plays. He had Ohio State for the national championship game. He's been scorching hot. He's about to give out a free play right now, again on Jon and Jim. So, Chris, walk us through this, and thanks for hopping on. I mean, you're winning at such a clip right now that books don't want to take the business from your customers, right?
Yeah. Here's what it comes down to, and I feel like I can say this because California doesn't have access to DraftKings and FanDuel. They are the biggest bunch of whining crybabies I have ever seen in my life. Why even be in the sportsbook business if you're going to limit players when you're making? First of all, they make 85% of their profit off parlays. So when a person bets straight up, it's like they don't want that business. It's really crazy to me. Because if you lose, they'll keep taking your money. But when you win, they want to limit people. And like I said, they're a bunch of whining crybabies. It is what it is right now. We just got to figure out a way to get through it.
All right. So I want to start with, again.
We have faith in you, Chris.
Yes. I mean, no doubt. I mean, for our listeners, you've been making them a lot of money. Again, 12-3 over your last 15 plays. You had the free play on Ohio State in the championship game. So your free pick tonight, we're going to get into the conference championship weekend, obviously. But if you want tonight's pick, all you have to do is text WIN, W-I-N, to 545454. What do you have for our listeners tonight? It's in the NBA, right?
Yeah, so, hey, look, this is the first time we're doing a show where we don't have access to a football on Thursday night or a Monday night, right? So we got to turn to basketball now. We've been great with basketball so far this season. Hope to keep it going over the next 2 or 3 months. Chicago Golden State tonight is free on the text line. So like you just said, text the word WIN to the number 545454. You'll get Chicago Golden State tonight absolutely free. We have a big college basketball game lined up for Saturday. You will also automatically receive that. Now, please, there's been texts that come in. You're not going to receive that play tonight. What happens is when you text in, you get the play for tonight, and then automatically it will be sent to you Saturday morning, probably around 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. your time. You'll get the play automatically. You don't have to contact us, but we're giving out a play tonight in the NBA and then a big play in college basketball on Saturday for free.
All right, Chris, let's get to Conference Championship Sunday here. First up, Eagles and Commanders. I'm sure you love this matchup personally. What do you got in this game here, Chris?
I'll tell you the truth. My hatred for the Giants, I'm rooting for both teams. Because either team screws the Giants, and that's great because the Giants really just F this whole thing up with letting Saquon go and then not, drafting Jaden Daniels when they have opportunity to do so. That said, here's the issue with this game as I see it and as my team sees it. We're going to go with the under, 47.5. I know that's not an attractive bet. Anyone who watched Jalen Hurts last week knows he's not 100% healthy. He's one hit away from being in a lot of trouble. Washington lost their best offensive lineman. They are not going to be able to block Jalen Carter. He is going to mess the entire game up for them offensively. Washington's not going to have the same success
throwing outside, even though they're an outdoor football team. Okay, the weather in Philly is not supposed to be great. It's not supposed to be as snowy as it was last week, but there is snow in the forecast. And Philadelphia has the number 1 ranked defense in the league. He's still a rookie quarterback. As good as Daniels is, he's still a rookie quarterback. Tough situation. I think the Eagles will play to their defense, and the Eagles are going to try to run the ball up and down the field with Saquon. So 47.5 for a conference title game in that type of weather, with one team's best offensive lineman out and another team struggling with their quarterback right now. He's been banged up. I just think that's a very high number. I don't think it's going to get anywhere near that. So we're going to go under 47.5.
All right, Chris Hodge taking Vegas with us. The plays under in the NFC title game of 47.5. Again, if you want tonight's free play, just text WIN, W-I-N, to 545454. All right, what about this AFC title game? Again, Kansas City's in it. Buffalo trying to get through Kansas City. What's the play in the AFC title game?
If you guys want some comedy, I'm going to be on Buffalo radio on Saturday morning. Bills Mafia hates me.
Oh,
they hate me. Okay, the emails I get from them, because last year I went against them with Kansas City when they played in the divisional round, and I'm going to do it again. And I don't even take credit for the run we're on with Kansas City in the playoffs, because we used them all 4 times last year. Now, we used them last week early. The line was 8.5. It did go up to 9.5. So depending on when you bet it, that safety might have got you. Okay, but there is no way on earth that I am betting against Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. I just, you can't do it. All right. First of all, they always get calls, right? So I don't know how that works, but they always get them. Secondly, Pat Mahomes is like watching Michael Jordan. When he has to go down and get points, he goes down and gets points. You could take the offensive line, defensive line out of the equation. Weather's supposed to be okay. You could take the skill guys out of the equation. It comes down to one player and one player only, and that is Pat Mahomes, and I am not betting against him. I didn't do it last year. We went 4-0. Last week, again, depending on the line, either won or pushed. Some of you may have lost. I get it. But, man, go beat them. I don't think someone can go into Arrowhead and beat them in January. I think they're going to win 3. I think they're going to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, because I do believe the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl regardless of who they play. So Kansas City, we're going to see history. I think they're going to do it 3-peat. So Kansas City's the play.
Yeah, that was my next question there for you, Chris. Regardless of who the winner is in the AFC, they're going to be favored in the Super Bowl, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and probably a big favorite too. 3, 4, 5 points. They're better than both NFC teams, probably by a long shot. And, if you look at what Kansas City's trying to do, no team has ever done. By the way, no team has ever won 2 straight Super Bowls and gotten to a third.
Yeah.
No one's ever done that. So they're really up against history in terms of that. And Buffalo, man, they got just the most unluckiest playoff history of all time. So, they're trying to do something they've never done as an organization. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. But at the end of the day, I believe Pat Mahomes will go down the field and get the field goal or the touchdown and beat this poor guy again, Josh Allen. So I'm going with Kansas City.
Again, if you want tonight's free play, text WIN to 545454. Just text WIN to 545454. Chris, before you go, you touched on it, but from a sportsbook perspective, they're making a lion's share of their money with parlays, right? That's the pitfall. Most of the money made by a sportsbook is in parlays?
Sure, 85%.
So, okay. So, again, that's good to know for our listeners, because, again, you come on each and every week and you're talking about single plays, right? You're talking about – and you've had this strategy before where if you're making 3 single plays and you win 2 of them, you're coming out on the right side.
Absolutely. Sports gambling is all math, right? So, you like here, take a 3-team parlay. They only pay 6-1 on that. Well, the true odds of winning a 3-team parlay are 8-1. So why would you ever take the odds out of your favor and put it in the sportsbook's favor? And if you just look at life, why would you ever do what your enemy wants you to do? Like, the sportsbook is the enemy. They're trying to take your money. You're trying to take their money. Okay? So when you bet straight up, if I bet one game, even if I'm an idiot, if I bet one game, I have a 50-50 shot of winning that game, and the sportsbook has a 50-50 shot. If I bet 2 games for $1,000, I have to win both to win money. The sportsbook only has to win 1. So when you understand the mathematics of this and how to put the odds slightly tilted to your favor, that's when you start to have success. And I've been on with you guys, with the exception of 1 year, since 2013.
Right.
Okay? I have preached this from day one. I have never changed. And the free picks we've given out on the show, You guys know they've been pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I said last week, we did get off to a slow start in September with you guys, but the last 3 months on the show, we're pretty much on fire with everything we're doing, and we hope to keep it going for the next 2 months.
All right, so again, the plays under in the NFC title game. Chiefs. The Chiefs. It is hard to bet against Kansas City.
Right? Why would you do it?
Why would you?
You're a fool.
Yeah,
you do it. You're
trouble.
like, I should have bet. I should have bet. Not against them.
And again, tonight, if you want this NBA play, just text WIN, W-I-N, to 545454. And come the next time Chris Hodge is on the show, we will know our Super Bowl matchup, and we'll get you ready for that. Chris, thank you again. You've been red hot for our listeners, and we appreciate you hopping on in San Diego.
By the way, guys, I heard the opening before I came on. A center for ants is one of the greatest movie lines ever, spoken by Ben Stiller in Zoolander.
Yes.
I could watch that today and laugh my you-know-what off. That was a hilarious line.
Absolutely.
The line after that is, it's got to be at least 3 times bigger than this. Which made it even better.
It's a classic movie. Dude. I love it.
Chris, always appreciate it, man. We'll do it again next week. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
All right, again, for our listeners, text WIN to 545454. Free play in the NBA right now from Chris Hodge. Again, 12-3 in his last 15 free plays for our listeners. All right, we've been reacting all day to Jurickson Profar, to the Atlanta Braves. 3 years, $42 million. You know the whole chess checkers conversation we always have in sports? Like, this team's playing chess, whatever. I forget what we say.
This team is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers?
Right. The Padres haven't really played any game.
They're on the sideline.
They're on the side. Right. Maybe they're waiting to play the next game of checkers or chess. Because the moves now, and Dan Szymborski said it when he was with us 35 minutes ago or 40 minutes ago, it's like, at this point, the marquee free agents are kind of off the board.
I've always thought that the not first move, but the most significant move that this team would make this offseason would be via trade. I've always thought that.
And you're going to be right.
Yeah,
you're going to be
probably. Right. I always thought that. I never thought that this team was going to go big in free agency. I did think and hoped that they were going to do that for Profar. I think that was, to me, probably the one player that I could envision them going out and making a deal in free agency for, just because of how important he is and was to this team. But other than that, I didn't see any other free agent options, really. It was all pretty much through trade. And at this point in time, that's probably what they're going to have to do.
Well, the one beauty of that is, like, it does open up the board, so to speak. Like, you have so much flexibility and creativity when it comes to trade. When it comes to free agency, you have nothing because you're constricted by payroll and players are coming off the board. At least via trade, the board is open potentially via trade for AJ Preller. And he's been very good. I mean, he's been good before when put into these corners. And we'll see if he can come through again heading into 2025. So again, reaction to Jurickson Profar leaving San Diego for Atlanta. The Braves will be here opening day. Plus, we'll get to the wrap on the other side. If you missed Dan Szymborski, you'll hear him coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Plus, we have a gift card to give away this hour to Morton's Steakhouse. We're here until 6. It's Jon and Jim.
San Diego sports traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
We have brush fires in Otay Mesa and in La Jolla. That one in La Jolla, the fire is now under control, but traffic is still very heavy in that area at I-5 north and south. Off-ramps to Gilman Drive are still shut down. You'll see very heavy traffic on
All right, with all the excitement about, well, it's not really excitement, Jurickson Profar leaving.
Yeah, what are you talking
All the
about?
reaction. All the reaction.
There's no excitement there.
Oh, we've been talking about it for 2 hours, and we will until 6 o'clock. We can't forget what happened last night in Colorado Springs, which was San Diego State saved its season on this play from Wayne McKinney in overtime.
76-75. Inbound. Driving. Layup. Up. Good.
All right, so Uncle Teddy, 30th year calling Aztec basketball games, a game winner. Aztecs have had a lot of them over the last 5 or 6 years. So they win this game. Is it a metric hit? Sure, right? There's 13.5-point favorites, but they win this game. Jim, you watched it like I did. There were 6-8 times late in this game like they're done. They're cooked. It's not their night. Air Force has their number here. It's not going to work out. It would have buried their at-large chances. It would have buried.
Quad 4 loss.
They could not have overcome it. They could not have overcome it, in my opinion. So they win the game. And let me just say this and then get your reaction. A year ago, they win a game with Jaden Ledee at the buzzer in La Jolla against UC San Diego. Okay? Remember that? Mm-hmm. That would have been disastrous in real time. Now, UCSD is better than Air Force metrically last year. Mm-hmm. 5 years ago, they start 26-0. Malachi Flynn down 2.
San Jose State.
Against San Jose State, 300 in the metrics that year. Hits a 3 to win the game, and that catapults them, so to speak, to 26-0. My point is, it happens. Over the course of a year, you're going to need to find a way to win a game that you should win. Thankfully, they won it. They're going to have to get better from here on out, but thankfully, they found a way to win that game against Air Force.
I put on Twitter after that game went from easily the worst loss of their season, forcing them to most likely have to win the Mountain West Conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament, to LOL JK wins a win. That's how big that layup was from Wayne McKinney. Now, again, this team has problems. I'm not saying that they don't, but that layup by Wayne McKinney saved them from just a god-awful loss. And thankfully, they won that game because, like you said, they lose that game. It just crushes their at-large bid. Having a quad 4 loss on their hands, losing to, at the time, a 3-15 Air Force team.
Yeah.
Just crushing their hopes of getting an at-large. But then on the other bigger picture here about that game, I'm glad they won, but man, did that feel like one of the longest, worst games to watch I've ever watched in my entire life.
3-hour game.
That was so poorly officiated on both ends. 71 free throws total. I know it was in overtime, but still going in overtime, I think there was 60 total.
Lots of reviews.
Lots of reviews. It was a joke. It was a joke of a game. And honestly, if they didn't win, it would have been an absolute waste of time.
Yeah, and you would have been thinking about March. I mean, you would have been thinking about the Mountain West Conference tournament, and you would have been wondering, where do they turn? Now, I mean, listen, we've said this so much. They are a young team. I keep saying they have 5 of their 9 in the rotation as underclassmen. It's not accurate. It's 6. Miles Byrd is a redshirt sophomore by eligibility. By eligibility, 6 of the 9 players in their rotation are freshmen or sophomores. This was always a distinct possibility. Mark Ziegler had the most amazing stat with us yesterday. Of the 150 youngest teams in Division I, one of them has an at-large resume. It's San Diego State. Of the 150 youngest teams in Division I, one of them in January has an at-large resume. You could argue, Brian Dutcher, this is as good of a coaching job as you're going to get. It doesn't mean they're going to the NCAA tournament. They may not. This team's young. There have been highs and lows. They're playing at elevation. Guys don't look like themselves. Air Force looks like the 98 Bulls. I think they beat the Bulls, and I think they win that series. I'm just kidding. Air Force didn't look like Air Force is my point last night. So, and I thought San Diego State 2, 3, 4 times was not winning that game. But they did.
Yeah.
And that's the story.
Yeah. It in college basketball, yes, how you win sometimes matters, but a win's a win. You don't suffer a quad 4 loss. It's concerning how they have played recently, but picking up a win there, even though it was as ugly as you could possibly make it, is all that matters. Wayne McKinney with a huge shot. It's the biggest shot of their season to this point in time, easily, because it saved them from disaster. And now you move forward knowing, okay, we avoided that. Let's improve and get better. But yeah, that was as scary as it could get last night. From you were on the brink of ruining your at-large potential if you did not win that game.
So 4.5 seconds, I'm like, there's no chance he's getting to the rim. That wasn't even on my mind.
I thought it was, I mean, either.
Well, who's going to take the jumper?
Yeah.
You're going to take a probably relatively tough jumper. I'm thinking a three. Maybe you got to look at a three. That's what I'm thinking. And again, Boyd and Bird are out. So now you got these young guards, Taj DeGorville out there. You've got Wayne McKinney, who came on out of nowhere in the second half, scored 18 points in this game.
Thank goodness.
For McKinney to make here's the thing, the winning play before the winning play, we talked about it all over social media. Jared Coleman-Jones sets this ridiculous screen that
which
the
I
way
thought was
the game was officiated.
These refs are awful.
Yeah, I figured it was going to be an offensive foul, but he set it perfectly. That sprung McKinney downhill. And to have the wherewithal to get that shot off with 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second was really incredible.
It's okay if I say this. Do you see that text from Darnay last night that he sent us?
I don't know if I did, truthfully. I'm serious. I don't know if I did.
He was joking. It was a funny text, and it's okay. I think Darnay is okay if I say this. He's like, Jared Coleman-Jones missed an easy putback in regulation, then missed a rebound that ended up turning into a go-ahead bucket for Air Force, all to be able to set a game-winning screen
to be the hero
for Wayne McKinney.
Man. And we'll talk more about it with Brian Dutcher, by the way, who will join us for the Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, get him in. I'll ask them. You can get him in on our text line right now. Whatever you have for Dutch, coming off Air Force, getting ready for Reno, what's ahead, Reese Waters, we'll get an update there. You can text us, 70470, start your message with team. If you've got a question for Brian Dutcher, again, text us, 70470, start your message with the word team. At the end of the day, Jim, sigh of relief. You know me, dude.
Oh my gosh, we were texting back.
Oh God,
and forth.
you should have seen him.
I know.
He came in. He was like pumping his fists, and he was going nuts.
Is it the biggest shot in Aztec history, John?
No, it's not.
I'm just kidding.
It's not. I tweeted. I mean, okay, just real quick. Since last 5 years, look at these buzzer beaters: Malachi Flynn against San Jose State, Trey Pulliam at home against Nevada, Micah Parrish against UC Irvine twice. Lamont Butler at the pit against New Mexico. You may recall Lamont Butler in the Final Four had a buzzer beater.
Yes.
Jaden Ledee with 0.1 of a second in La Jolla last year against UC San Diego. Now last night. They've had like 7 of these in 4 years.
But it's, I think, not out of, context, not context, but it's not, when you say it's the biggest shot of their season, yeah.
It's kind of true.
It kind of is true right now. In this season for this team, that layup by Wayne McKinney avoided absolute disaster when it comes to their resume.
They went down just 2 spots in the net last night. They would have gone down 20 if they lost that game. All right, the wrap on the other side. Plus, we'll hear from Andrew Friedman. Was it a handshake deal? Is he going to say it? Did he say it yesterday, Andrew Friedman? Was it a handshake deal between Roki and the Dodgers? That's next.
Hi, I'm Nicole Donnelly, and for 30
All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. Breaking news of the day, Jurickson Profar has signed a 3 years, $42 million deal with the Atlanta Braves. San Diego State avoiding disaster last night as they beat Air Force in overtime thanks to a Wayne McKinney layup. Aztecs now will face Nevada coming up on Saturday night. Tonight is the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. You can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. NFL news of the day, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson are finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
So there's a breaking news story that it's not overly relevant, but I'm curious. There's audio of Ohtani's interpreter. Okay. What was his name?
Ipe.
Okay, it was Ipe. Remember that? Like that thing was buried, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brent, see if you can grab that. I think it's a SoundCloud link. It's an athletic story. Breaking news. Federal prosecutors disclosed an audio recording which they say showed Ipe, Ohtani's former interpreter, attempting to push through a $200,000 wire transfer from one of the players' accounts, acting as if he was Shohei Ohtani. And the audio is on the Athletics website. I want to hear what that sounds like.
That's interesting.
So Ipe is trying to act as if he's Shohei Ohtani, and he's trying to push through a $200,000 wire transfer in an effort to aid in his betting, whatever he was doing, right? What was he betting on? College soccer or something?
He was
right?
betting on the most random stuff, and he was awful at it. Like he would lose all the time on the dumbest stuff.
Don't you are you not fascinated by this?
Oh,
because remember hey, this all happened without Ohtani knowing. So I want to hear what Ipe was doing.
I do too.
I want to hear what Ipe was doing.
Again, I'm hard pressed to believe that Shohei knew nothing about this. Oh, he was totally in the dark.
But Ipe pleaded guilty.
I know he did.
He took the fall.
You need a fall guy, bro.
What is this going to sound?
As Chris Carter famously said, have a fall guy.
The problem is Brent's grabbing this. I think this is 3 minutes and 46 seconds. So we're getting
4 minutes.
We may have to look at it.
We'll do it. We'll
during
get a break.
Okay.
Possibly in the 5 o'clock hour. But that is interesting.
I listened to the first.
Was it interesting?
40 seconds. It's pretty much. I'm doing air quotes because it wasn't him. It's Shohei on customer service complaining that he can't get into his online banking, but it's not Shohei, because if you've heard him speak English at like press conference, you can tell it's not him.
All right, it might not be great audio for the show. I was just curious if it was like
it could.
Yeah, we'll see if we can pare it down.
It's not bad.
All right, we'll play that for you if we can. Coming up. All right, we haven't gotten to the wrap. Plus, we're going to hear from Andrew Friedman on the Sasaki sweepstakes coming up as well.
Was it a handshake deal or not?
Right. All right. So let's get to the wrap.
It's time for the wrap, presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Did Wayne McKinney save the Aztec season last night with his buzzer beater?
He absolutely did save their season. Without that turns into a disaster loss, quad 4 loss, resume buster, and the vibe around this team for the rest of the season is like, well, you got to win the Mount West Conference tournament now. That's how big of a shot that was for this season. So yes, Wayne McKinney's shot saved their season.
Yeah, I don't think it's cliche. Like Brian Dutcher would say that you kind of have to avoid landmines. San Diego State's done this incredibly well over the years. They typically are able to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, but there's no guarantee of that. And it is still sport and college basketball, and you're on the road, and they were coming off that, again, quote unquote, bad loss to UNLV at home. So they avoided another one. And I do think, does it truly save their season? It may have. We'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward, but it may have.
And they snuck another one out in elevation. They had that stat last night. They're going into last night. They're 1-6 since like 2023, I think.
That's right.
In elevation. So.
That's right. Next question, bro.
Will Jurickson Profar ever have a better season than he did last season?
No, but that doesn't mean he can't still put together very good seasons. Hitting 280 for Jurickson Profar feels like an anomaly. Hitting 6 home runs?
24
home runs kind of feels like the max for him. Having an 820 OPS kind of feels like the max for Profar. But if he puts together a season where he hits 265 and 21 home runs and a OPS of 790, like that's still a really good year. And I think that's worth $14 million a year. But I don't know if he's going to I don't think he's going to put together like that type of season last year.
I'd be surprised if he replicated it. It was an awesome year. He came through a ton. He tailed off, but still had good numbers in the second half. But he tailed off from where he was. He was unbelievable in the first half of the year. I would expect him to be productive in Atlanta, but I don't think he replicates his numbers from San Diego in Atlanta. Although, I don't know. We could be wrong. We'll see. Next question.
Finalists are out. Who's going to win NFL MVP?
The finalists are Lamar, Saquon, and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Everyone's, before the announcement, was like, oh, Josh Allen. But Lamar was voted as the AP first team QB.
Right.
And those voters vote for the MVP. So my guess is they're not going to vote Lamar AP first team and then not vote him for MVP. So I'm going to pick Lamar in winning his third MVP. As he probably should, because his numbers definitely back it up.
And they voted before this weekend anyways, right?
Right.
Yes.
End of the regular season. I think it's Lamar. Honestly, if I was voting, like how I voted for Ashton Genty, I'm voting for Saquon Barkley. And because a couple of things. He could have set the rushing record, but he sat his final week. His season's ridiculous in his first year with a rival after they let him walk. And then I know the postseason doesn't matter, but his postseason's been awesome. He's rushed for like 350 yards already. He's got at least another game. He could go for like 500-plus yards in the postseason. So he's had an amazing year. I get it. They don't include the postseason. If they did, I'm not choosing Lamar Jackson. But I think based on the regular season, I'm choosing Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and also Saquon has a good argument.
He does, but he's a tailback.
I know, which is a bummer.
Right.
Because tailbacks, I guess, are never going to win MVP ever again.
Unless they rush for like 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
Next question.
Hey, they got extra games to do it now. Who's going to be the starting left fielder for the Padres on opening day? I assume they'll have one.
You know that meme I send you all the time of I go, LOL, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Like, shrug emoji, Tirso. Okay.
Was it like the Jordan security guard in the documentary?
No, that's for like, that's a good thing. That's not like an I don't know thing.
Okay.
But I truly don't know. At this point in time, I think Tirso is the guy that is probably going to get first cracks. I'm going to laugh when it's Tyler Wade, though. Like, what?
It could be. I mean, again, nobody wants to do the deep dive on Tirso or Neela, so I won't. But I just click on him, and I see a guy that produced in AAA. He's not young. I mean, he's going to be 25. So maybe they do give him the chance. He turns 25 March 11th. He'd be a 25-year-old starting outfielder. Like, yeah, rookie. Mm-hmm. But he's 25.
Is he older than Tatis?
No, he's probably a little younger. Or
is he older than Juan Soto?
Honestly, maybe. So Tatis is 26. So yeah, he's a year younger.
Brandon Lockridge.
Come on, no, they got to do better than that.
Yeah, they have to do better than Tirso as well.
Tommy
fan,
come on down
for $1 million.
All right, let's hear from Andrew Friedman because we wanted to play this like 2 hours ago. This is Andrew Friedman. Where, Jim?
This was on their home radio station, 570, up in LA. It's an iHeart station, so I guess it's a sister station. And he was on with our favorite Dave Vassay.
Oh, my.
And he was asked about this perceived handshake. It was always in the bag deal.
Right.
With the Dodgers and Roki Sasaki.
That doesn't sound like an Andrew Friedman that thought he had Roki Sasaki in the bag 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, you can ask my cardiologist. We definitely did not. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be noise. It's so ridiculous. The funniest for me is people who said before the process started, oh, he's going to go to the Dodgers. And then he went to the Dodgers and like, see, the fix is it. It's like, no, the reason you thought he was going to come to the Dodgers were pretty compelling reasons. And he agreed and felt like we would be the best place to partner with our city, our fans, our ability to help make players better, friends and familiar faces that he already knows. There are so many reasons that we felt like, and obviously we were biased, that it made sense, but we weren't sure how it was going to land with a 23-year-old.
Do you still think
you
it was
about to say in the back, like, yeah, I agree with you, Andrew.
Yes. What else do you need, Mr. Friedman? Do you want me to shine your shoes for you, buddy?
Do I agree with what? I mean,
Is there a bigger homer than David Vesse?
He's up there, dude.
I mean, well, I don't want to ask that question, but he's a pretty big homer.
He's up there.
He is definitely up there for sure.
How happy is David Vesse?
Oh my God,
He's just every day just waking up like springing back handstand out of bed.
He's like, yay, another big signing for the Dodgers. I love
Nobody
this team.
has it better than me. Like
I get to cover the greatest Dodgers team ever.
I get to go down the slide in Milwaukee
and break my wrist again.
So
just
fun.
kidding, David. But he is a homer.
Oh, he is such a homer.
Oh, big time. That's fine, whatever. But I get what look, being unbiased here, I get what Andrew Friedman is saying when he's like, yeah, we were the perceived favorites from the beginning, and he goes to us, and everyone's like, oh, the fix is in. Like, no, we're the favorites because of everything that we have done to make ourselves the perceived favorite. Having a stable organization, having the best roster, spending the most money, development, all that stuff is the reason why in the beginning we were favorites to begin with. So in that sense, like, I'm happy that we were the favorites because it means that we're doing something right. And so from that standpoint, I agree with him. And I don't think the fix was in. I mean, it feels like it. It really does. And there's a lot of things that's like, it's kind of fishy. But I also do think that Roki really did his due diligence for everything and visited every team that he wanted and had an open mind. But with that being said, while having a quote unquote open mind, the Dodgers were always his number one.
I mean, hold on, though. For Andrew Friedman to be like, oh, it's so ridiculous that they said that. Major League Baseball conducted an investigation before the posting to make sure you weren't doing that. So it's not utter insanity or noise when MLB got involved prior to the posting period even opening. All right, we're going to give away a gift card to Morton's. You need to call right now. First two callers will be contestants for trivia. You need to call right now. We've got a free gift card to Morton's Steakhouse for San Diego Restaurant Week. The number to call is 877-767-4760. Call right now. We've got a free gift card to Morton's Steakhouse. First two callers will be contestants. The number to call is 877-767-4760. We're here until 6. Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. John and Jim.
San Diego Sports Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
The SIG alert is still in effect for the closure of the Gilman Drive off-ramp off the 5 freeway, both north and southbound 5, the off-ramp to Gilman.
coming up. The latest on Jurickson Profar. He signs with the Braves. Jim, though, had some breaking NFL news involving the San Francisco 49ers.
Michael Silver is reporting that the Niners are going to hire Robert Saleh as their new defensive coordinator.
That's a big-time hire, right? Because he was in the coaching cycles, maybe getting a head coaching job.
And with the Jags, and then the Jags fired their GM Trent Baalke, and then it was the offensive coordinator for the Bucks declined, but then now he's going back.
He's going back. Yeah,
it's a mess.
Rumored to be a Dallas.
Yeah, he was a Dallas
candidate. Yeah,
so
recently. Saleh.
Fingers crossed for me.
Well, did he supersede Shanahan?
No,
but is he reporting they're talking to him, or they've landed him, or what was the report?
Mike Silver says, I expect the 49ers to rehire Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator soon.
So that's the expectation.
And he is like boots on the ground, close to the 49ers organization. And usually when Mike Silver says something, you kind of believe it.
Kind of make or break here. Miss the postseason, easier schedule based on their finish in the division. They got to go win.
He then posted a picture, all systems go, with him and Robert Saleh.
Okay. So it's happening.
If it doesn't, then I'd be surprised.
You're jumping off small buildings.
I am yelling loud curse words. Yes.
Okay. All right. Jurickson Profar to Atlanta. We'll get back to that in the 5 o'clock hour. If you missed Dan Zimborski from Fangraphs on projections for 2025, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30. But right now, let's get to this.
Greetings. Here we go. Time for Team John versus Team Jim.
You want me to play?
3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Jim and Ed. Jim, you called in first, so you have your choice of John or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
I'm going to take John.
All right, Jim and John.
I love that. Jim and John. That would be a good show name.
I much prefer that show name
to John and Jim.
John and Jim, yeah. Jim and John has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Ed, you get me, Jim. You go with that?
Yep.
All right,
Let's do it.
perfect. Brent, what is the question today?
All right, guys. Earlier we talked about that crazy rumor with the Twins trading for Dylan Cease and Christian Vasquez. Did you know that there are 7 catchers in Major League Baseball history with 300 or more career home runs? Today's question, wait for it. Name any of those 7 catchers with 300 or more career home runs.
This is other than Luis Campusano?
Well, obviously.
Okay. Was Higgy on the list?
Yeah, last June he was.
Spoiler alert.
All right, Ed, you're up first. What's your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let's try Mike Piazza.
Mike Piazza.
Is he number? He's got to be number 1.
He's
something.
Number 1. He's number 1. Jim, you're up next. What's your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Johnny Bench.
Johnny Bench.
Good guess.
There you go.
All right.
Ed, back to you. What is your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Let me use a lifeline.
Okay. I'll go with Pudge Rodriguez. Do you take that?
Sure. Let's go with it.
Wow. Look at you, Jim.
Jim, you're up next. What's your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
Gary Carter.
Gary Carter, very good
Great
guess.
catcher. Yep.
There we go. Ed, back to you. This is all up to you. You do not have a lifeline. What is your final guess, buddy?
How about Yogi Berra?
Yogi Berra?
Wow.
I like it. Now, Jim, you're going to need this to send this thing to overtime. You do have a lifeline, which is John here, who looks like he knows the answer for
There's
you.
one out there. There's one out there.
What are you going to do, buddy?
I'm going to go with the lifeline.
Yeah, there's an outstanding all-timer out there in Carlton Fisk.
You take that?
Yes.
There you go.
For the win. Is that the win or the tie?
It's tie.
Okay,
tie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are we going to overtime?
We're going to overtime.
Wow, good job, guys.
All right, so Brent, give us the rules of overtime and then the question for overtime.
All right, how overtime is going to work is I'm going to ask you another question. When I'm done asking the question, you will yell out the name of your partner today, either John or Jim. Don't yell out the answer. Whoever yells out the name of their partner first, you're going to win the game by getting the question right, or you're going to lose the game by getting the question wrong. You guys got it?
Yep.
Cool.
All right, today's overtime question. Who did Jurickson Profar sign with?
John.
Jim.
I heard John.
Ooh,
Jim, what do you
man.
have?
Atlanta Braves.
That is correct for the win. They both knew it, but Jim got in just before Ed, and he's going to walk away with a gift card to Morton Steakhouse for Restaurant Week. Did we miss one catcher? Because there's 7.
Yes, we did.
You guys won't guess it. I don't even know who the hell it is.
It's got to be like back in like the early 1900s.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't.
Lance Parrish.
Yeah.
Oh, no. He played like in the 70s and 80s, right?
Did he?
Yeah.
No idea who that is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is either.
Or my first.
He was the only guy on the list I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he played in the 80s. Tigers. 70s and 80s.
For the Tigers?
Yeah. He played for the Tigers, Brent, from 77 to 86. Played for the Angels late in his career. Anyway, Jim, not you, but our winner. You've won a gift card to Morton Steakhouse for San Diego Restaurant Week. San Diego Restaurant Week happening January 26th to February 2nd. Over 100 of San Diego's top restaurants, inviting you to indulge in 2-course lunches and 3-course dinners with prices starting at just $30. We should go to this.
Yeah, we should.
Right? We should go to all 100 restaurants. We should do a live remote.
One day.
No, 100 consecutive days. We'll just talk about Jurickson Profar from every restaurant in the city. Over 100 days. A full list of participating restaurants at san diego restaurantweek.com. That's san diego restaurantweek.com. Did you listen to the ePay sound at all, Brent?
No more than I did before.
Okay. Brent's going to take a listen. We'll see if we can potentially air some of the audio of ePay pretending to be Shohei Ohtani when he tried to wire $200,000 illegally from Ohtani. Plus, Jurickson Profar to the Braves. What's the Padres' course of action? And Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs. If you missed it, you'll hear from Dan Szymborski some projections for 2025 for the Padres and the Dodgers coming up at 5:30 on Jon and Jim.
Diego.
All right, this update is brought to you by Lowe's. The breaking news of the day: Jurickson Profar and the Atlanta Braves have agreed to a 3-year, $42 million contract. San Diego State avoided disaster last night. In overtime, Wayne McKinney hit a game-winning layup against Air Force. Next up, the Aztec will take on Nevada on Saturday night on the road. Tonight is the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show at 6 p.m. You can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day: Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson are all finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
Getting you all set for that drive home.
Thank the Lord they didn't sign him. If he came in the studio and took a photo with us, you would look like you're like 2 inches tall, man. What is this?
A center for ants.
You're like, what's that movie? Honey, I Shrunk the Gym. And John.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
You son of a...
I mean, we'd be tiny.
Dude, he is
He'd be like
massive.
hitting the ceiling in here. No wonder he throws 100 miles an hour.
Let's just start the show. Here's Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of Jon and Jim. We do have Brian Dutcher, the Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, you can get them in. I see a few of them right now on the text line. I'll ask them live on air coming up at 6 p.m. Just text 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470 started with the word team. We learned literally the moment we came on air that Jurickson Profar was leaving San Diego. He has signed with the Atlanta Braves. It's a very reasonable and fair deal, we all think. 3 years, $42 million to the Atlanta Braves. One of the more, I don't know.
Savvy.
Yes,
Savvy teams,
savvy organizations in the sport.
Yeah. Very well run.
Jurickson Profar goes to Atlanta coming off a career year. Now, interestingly, Atlanta will open their season here in San Diego March 27th. But we start the show by saying, like, the offseason just isn't getting better. I'm not saying this is the low point of the offseason. I think maybe not landing Roki or who even knows, the lawsuit, the 24 innings. But it's not getting better. I mean, Jurickson Profar, who was a mainstay and a staple, will no longer be here. The last of Jurickson Profar in a Padres uniform has likely happened at this point with this 3-year deal. Likely.
What is he, 32?
He's 32.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
not.
You don't need him at 37.
No. But the Padres, you look at the rundown of what has happened this offseason and the players they've missed out on and they've lost, they haven't replaced any of it. None of it. They lost out on Roki Sasaki.
Yeah.
They've lost Jurickson Profar to free agency. They've lost Tanner Scott to free agency. Hassan Kim is still a free agent out there. He's probably not coming back. They lost Kyle Higashioka in free agency. Donovan Solano signed with the Mariners. Martin Perez signed elsewhere. David Peralta is still a free agent out there. You know, Elias Diaz is a guy that just randomly was on the team last year, but who cares exactly? So, like, you know, when at the in the offseason they go like add and subtract, right? Like, oh, you lost this amount, but you added this amount. There's nothing in the added column. Nothing.
Just blank space. Dude, ESPN.com before Sasaki said the Padres offseason grade is an F.
It's an F plus now.
Is it an F plus?
I'm saying it's an F plus.
Why is it better than an F?
I was thinking F plus is worse than an F.
Brent, this is
no.
I deal with this every day.
Sorry.
F minus is worse than.
Okay. Can I give this team an F minus?
You really thought an F plus was an A plus is better than an A. I know you never got one.
Oh, you son of.
You give him an F minus?
You watch your mouth.
I'm kidding.
You watch your freaking mouth.
He's get degrees, man.
Are you trying to say you're giving them an F minus?
I'm giving them the lowest possible grade you can give them.
Even with the Tyler Wade deal?
Yes, John.
That you
Even
talked
with,
about
yes.
in a solo show when I was in Logan, Utah, like 3 months ago.
Bro, that was an awful, awful time.
Like period of time. Nothing was happening.
No. Now, they did add Juan Nunez through the Rule 5 draft, who will be on this opening day roster.
Okay, great.
I know it's still whatever. They are in a situation where they have not improved off of a 93-win season. And when you come off of a season like that, the only thing you have to do is improve. If you don't then you're just falling behind and you're looking at last year as kind of like a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think anybody in the organization is happy right now? Truthfully, do you think anybody, you give truth serum to anybody in the organization, in the front office, players, I think they could care less. They're making money. I think they're kind of maybe upset, but at the end of the day, like if Manny Machado's getting paid $30 million a year, like he doesn't really care. But in the organization, the guys that put in so much time and effort to try to build this team, AJ Preller sitting on top of that list. Do you think any of them are happy?
Well, I don't, but I do wonder, like eternal optimist Mike Schilt.
Besides Mike Schilt.
I was just going to say, I mean.
Oh, my God.
I do feel as if the organization is putting a lot of faith in Schilt to replicate. Like Schilt was this like positive force. Somehow kind of did no wrong. I mean, he said some kind of interesting things in the first half of the year, but it all came together. I mean, their second half, you cannot question how good it was. Now, postseason, I thought there were missteps. I really thought there were missteps.
Yeah, he got outmanaged.
He did. He got outmanaged that series, but okay, good year. 93 wins, win a playoff series, get to the Dodgers series. But don't you feel like they're putting a lot of stock in like Schilt just being like, he's the guy. He's the hot guy. You know,
well,
it didn't work perfectly with. I don't know. I just feel like they're putting too much stock in him. Because remember, Melvin had his year one where they were really good.
Yeah.
And then they fell flat on their face year two.
Yeah, but at least you went into that year. There was a lot of optimism. That fan fest
Maybe
was
that's
wild.
where they're better off, dude, because remember, like the expectations like held them back. Oh my gosh, the weight of these expectations. They're not going to have crazy expectations. The Padres fans will say, get to the postseason, but nationally, there's not going to be this crazy expectation to go replicate last year.
No, you're right. But if they don't make any like significant moves, there's not going to be much optimism going into the season anyway.
Here,
season
ticket memberships, truck day.
That's great.
Peoria.
I know. I get it. I don't blame. I'm glad that they're going to sell that ballpark out.
No, me too. It's awesome.
It's a great time. Like, of course, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
You're going to go. We're going to watch the games.
Absolutely.
We're going to go buy tickets. We're going to buy beer. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
But what, Brent?
I was going to say, with their money issues with truck day, I just picture like the cheapest piece of crap truck that they're driving now to spring training because they don't have money to where like the backfiring exhaust.
No, they have nice trucks. They have nice equipment. They just can't afford like $1 million
The equipment's
players.
nice, just the way to get it there.
I forget what I was saying.
Good, I like that.
No, it's great.
F+.
Yeah, F+. Exactly.
I actually think F-.
F-.
I have no idea. You were saying
someone in the chat said Z. They deserve
Z.
Z. That's the lowest you can go.
Needs improvement.
Yeah, I forgot.
You were saying
that thought's gone.
You were saying maybe do something.
Yeah,
I don't know what you were saying. I have no idea.
I don't know either.
I don't know, dude. We do it every day, all day.
Yeah, it's the 5 o'clock loopy hour.
It gets loopy.
Yeah, it really does.
Wrap up show tonight at 9:30.
That should be fun.
Be very
the
loopy.
Unfiltered version of us.
Yeah, like screw this.
Yeah, F this.
I mean, it is the one thing we could have held our hat on was there's always, in fact, ESPN.com, Owen Gonzalez was like, it might just be a formality that Profar and the Padres are meant for each other. I think it was Gonzalez. There was some article with free agency, and the only Padres tidbit was like, Profar and the Padres, like, they're just meant to.
Everybody said that.
They'll just figure it out. 2-year deal. They'll get together at the end. I always held out hope. Okay, Profar, I know they have financial issues, but Profar will be here, right? Who's going to give him $50 million? Well, I think the Braves made a good signing. I really do. I think 42 is very reasonable. And Jeff Sanders today at the UT was like, Padres are never close. Mm-hmm. What do you think the Padres? I think they might have said 2 for 20, 1 for 10,
2 for 26.
I mean, that's almost close to 3 for 42.
But it's not a lot of years.
But if they weren't close, I don't think they were in the same. I bet they were like,
maybe
I don't think they were in the same.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you, if you had to pick right now between these two guys, you have to keep one.
Okay.
Luis Arraez at around 14 or Jurickson Profar?
I mean,
because that was kind of like the discussion of like,
I know.
To re-sign Profar, they're probably going to have to trade away Luis Arraez.
I mean, I think Profar has that well-roundedness to him where he's helping you off field. Like, I think he's pointing the team in the right direction.
Luis Arraez is a great teammate as well.
No, I agree. I'm not saying he's not, but I think Profar is kind of proven and documented. Man, that's a good question. I mean, Arraez, truthfully, when you get to like the actual like numbers, Rise's numbers won't support him over Profar necessarily, right? Like he's going to hit, but it's not going to result in a high OPS. He's not asked to do that. It's not going to result in great defensive metrics. He's not going to run a lot, right? He's not going to play multiple positions. He didn't with the Padres a lot. Played a lot of first. I mean, I could make the case for Jurickson Profar if you wanted to.
I could too. I could also make the case for Luis Arise.
I think it's close.
But if I'm looking at what it is next year, which is Arise is under a 1-year deal. He's a free agent after next season. Profar would have been under contract for 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I'm choosing the guy that's going to be here for multiple years.
Yeah, I could go with that. Yeah.
I mean, if all things were equal and both were under, both had an opportunity to be under long-term contracts, I might choose Luis Arise just because he wakes up and he's going to lead the league in average every year.
I do like me some Luis Arise.
I love me when he's healthy.
His bat
I love
on ball
me some
skill
Luis
is
Arise.
absurd, man. Guys on third base is getting him in.
Now he doesn't walk ever, and Profar gives you, arguably, he gives you a better at bat than Luis Arise because he's going to work counts. He's going to draw walks. Luis Arise does not do that.
Doesn't walk.
But he also, if he can have that year where he's hit, 340 with an on-base percentage of like damn near almost 400.
And he may need to do that next year. But to your point from earlier, you said Profar to 380 on base, which is crazy high.
Yeah.
Luis Arise, who leads the National League in hitting, at a 346. So like that's how good Profar was. I'm happy to go down the path that Profar has more value than Arise, and that's not to discredit Arise. I think Arise is a very good player. I think they'll need him. Without Profar, they need him to even do more than last year.
Yeah. Well, it puts a lot of pressure on the other guys now to put together some damn good years.
Yeah. And we're not even talking about the others anymore. Now you're talking about the primaries.
The main guys, yeah. The main guys. Luis Arise has to go back to form of a couple years ago. Maybe not to that level, but can you hit 330? Can you have a 370 on base?
He can. Yeah, he's capable of that. Yeah.
Can Manny hit 290 with
34
home runs and 115 RBIs? It's a lot.
He can. But
Can Tatis stay healthy and
hit
get
40.
you 35 to 40 home runs?
Yeah, but now we go down this parlay path. One thing might hit, but are 2 or 3 or 4 of them hitting?
Can Xander Bogaerts actually look like a competent baseball player again?
I mean, now I'm worried about his just overall health. As he gets into the second half of his career and he's dealt with injuries here and he has had all of his powers zapped.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm not counting on Xander Bogaerts.
Well, that's what you're going to need now with the losses that this team has sustained. You're going to need a guy that did not have a good season last year in Xander to have a good season this year.
Right.
To equal those things out. Like Profar last year equaled out the loss of Juan Soto. It wasn't, to the level of Juan Soto. Juan Soto is an infinitely better player than Jurickson Profar. But he gave you just enough of the production that you got from Juan Soto the prior year to not make that loss really affect you. And can that be done this year with players like Xander Bogaerts? Because if that's not, and Jackson and Jake Cronenworth, can you have that happen? Because if not, then they're in big time trouble. Same thing with the catching position as well. You had 18 home runs from your catcher last year with a slugging percentage that was like at times tops in baseball.
Right. Are you going to replicate that?
Yeah, I don't know if you can. And so, with positions that turned out to be pretty damn important to this team last year, now going to this year, you're looking at Martin Maldonado and Tirso or Neela's like, I don't know about that.
Where do they turn from here? We'll continue to react. Plus, if you missed Dan Zimborski, Fangraphs, great voice on this. What are the projections? What do they say for the Padres and the Dodgers? If you missed it, that's coming up at 5:30. Plus Jim's back page. It's Jon and Jim.
San Diego Sports Traffic.
This report
760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword at the top of every hour. Then enter it at sportssd.com. If you missed Dan Zimborski from Fangraphs, projections on the Padres and the Dodgers for 2025, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30.
He says something about Jackson Merrill's projections that is a little worrisome.
Agreed. And you're going to hear that coming up at 5:30. Did we touch on this on air or off air?
I don't know. What was it?
The Western Conference All-Star starters for
that
the
was
NBA.
Definitely off air.
Was it? I thought for a second we talked about it on air.
No, we didn't.
LeBron will appear in his 21st consecutive All-Star game.
Is that good?
That's ridiculous. He'll be joined by Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Steph Curry.
It better be. It's freaking the games in San Francisco.
This is what I asked Jim off air. I said, this starting five, if they played it as a real game, what would the score be against the Air Force Academy last night?
Just a half.
At Clune Arena.
Like 20 minutes.
In front of the same crowd.
I'm guessing if they played their hardest for like the 20-minute half, they would win by 70.
It would be fun to watch.
Like, could you imagine whoever the guards trying to guard like Steph and LeBron and KD and Shea?
It would be fascinating.
SGA is just like torching them.
Do we have Eastern? Is this the Eastern Conference? Giannis,
yes.
Tatum,
yes.
Donovan Mitchell,
yeah.
Brunson, and Kat.
Yeah. Now,
but are they playing as teams?
I don't know what the hell's happening.
That
honestly.
was my question.
I'd like if this were
teams
like
are good.
The East starters versus the West starters.
Good.
That's great. But I think they're going to do some wonky 3-on-3 thing that is going to fall flat. And also, by the way, did you
have
see
to play the winner of the Rising Stars?
Right,
was the fourth team or whatever.
Did you also see today that LeBron and Bronny declined an invite to the skills challenge this year?
They would do it together?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that's how it works. It's like a two-man team.
Yeah.
One of the events is, yeah.
It's like, pass the ball. Look, that was awesome. Bronny like threw it right to me.
And it's funny because I see a lot on like Bleacher Report. I know they're joking, but a lot of times when Bronny plays, he'll pass the ball and they'll do a video and be like, look at this pass from Bronny. And it's just like a pass to the wing.
Right.
like he'd be great in that. He's great at passing.
Who so far is committed to the slam dunk contest?
I don't know. And I don't care.
We've reached that point, right?
Because there's
like
never,
G-Leaguers that are winning it.
There's never going to be anybody good. You're not going to have, I can't even think right now who the best dunker in the NBA is off the top of my head. LeBron's never been in it, but he's also 40-something years old. Yeah, I don't know who like the best dunker in the league is. And right now, if you think about who the best dunker in the league is, probably is not an all-star guy.
Right.
It's not like back in the day with Vince Carter and Jason Richardson. Like you had some
huge. I mean, really
dunkers.
Back in the day, you had everyone in it.
Yeah.
Now it's completely
like,
changed.
There's 3 players that have committed.
Who?
And if I give you $1 billion, you'll never guess any one of them.
Let me hear the names if you have them.
Spurs rookie Stefan Castle.
He played at UConn last year.
Okay. Glad I
Good
didn't
player.
bet you $1 billion. Bulls rookie Mateus Brazelles.
Love his game.
that guy.
I like his game.
And Bucks guard Andre Jackson Jr.
Okay.
Those
Who
are the
also
3.
played at UConn, did he
There's
not?
one where they said the last spot could be fouled by perennial G Leaguer Mac McClung.
Wait, did Andre Jackson also play at UConn?
I don't think.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Yeah. So San Diego State's faced 2 of those guys in the last 2 years. All right. Well, I don't know if we'll be watching, but those are your NBA All-Star.
When is the
starters.
All-Star game?
Valentine's Day weekend ish. Right. Where is the All-Star game?
Last night, speaking of Valentine's Day, Aaron was trying to book us a restaurant for Valentine's Day. And I'm thinking to myself, babe, it's on a Friday. It's going to be an S show out there.
Wait, why is she booking it?
February 14th through the 16th.
In San Fran, by the way.
Why is she booking it?
Yeah.
Because
it's Valentine's Day. That's your job.
No, because she
Be a
just
man.
wants to get ahead of it and wants
What?
to do something. Oh, I'm supposed to book the dinner?
Yeah. Now, again, do I do it? Maybe not. But yes, as a first-year married man,
Mm-hmm.
it's Valentine's Day. They didn't make the holiday for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They made the
Exactly.
holiday
Why does he have to book it?
for her.
Oh, okay.
The cards and the hearts and the things.
I will not make that mistake again.
Oh, yeah. Didn't she say, oh, we don't need to do anything for Valentine's Day?
Yeah, that was a trap. Our
Right.
first year dating, and I come home and she has like a homemade card and my favorite candy and something else, like, I don't know, like a gift card or something. And it was like, I walked in and my face just, my jaw
You had
was
nothing?
just like, I have nothing. Oh my God. I mean, I brought home like dinner to make, and that's kind of like how I tried to play it off, but it didn't really work that well.
So what if you told Erin, hey, what if she's like, hey, I made reservations at the best spot in town, this brand new hip spot. And you were like, yeah, but it's during the slam dunk contest at the Chase Center. And Andre Jackson Jr. is going to be participating. So maybe we could do it like next weekend.
Yeah, probably not going to work.
Wouldn't go over well, right?
No, it would not. It wouldn't go over well at all.
How long have you been married?
7-8
months.
Yeah, we're coming up on, let's see here,
It's May?
June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January.
Are you really doing this?
Yeah, 8 months. Yes, I'm counting months, John.
Boy, it's easier to count the other way.
Oh, yeah.
So we're already past 6. Don't get me started. All right, on the other side, Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs with projections for the Padres and the Dodgers in 2025. We have Jim's back page ahead. If you have questions for Brian Dutcher, the Brian Dutcher show is at 6 p.m. Aztecs coming off that overtime win last night over Air Force. If you've got a question, I'll ask it live on air. You can text us, 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll ask your questions on air to Brian Dutcher, head coach at San Diego State, getting ready for Nevada Saturday night at 7 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. But Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs, great with baseball projections. That's next on Jon and Jim.
About this for over 30 years, West Automotive Group has made getting your vehicle
This update brought to you by Lowe's. We'll start with the news of the day. Jurickson Profar has signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Atlanta Braves. Padres will need to now look for a brand new left fielder. Moving over to San Diego State, they avoided disaster as they won a game last night. A winning layup by Wayne McKinney over Air Force. Next up, they'll take on Nevada Saturday night on the road. Tonight is the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show, 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And NFL news of the day, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, and Lamar Jackson are finalists for the MVP. Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. Download the Lowe's app to get their home improvement playbook in your hands so you can get their team's expertise anytime.
All right, so how did I start the conversation with Dan Szymborski? So let's see here. All right, Brent thinks I asked about Oh, yeah. You're right. All right, so Dan Szymborski joins us, 4 to 6 times a year? And he's at Fangraphs.
At least.
Yeah, at least 6 times a year. He's at Fangraphs. He does projections. He crunches the numbers. And then people rely heavily on these. They say, Zip's projection said Dodgers are going to win 99 games or Padres 89 games. So we started the conversation by asking about, does he have the final Zips projections for spring training in 2025? And what does it look like in the NL West?
Well, I haven't done the final projections yet, or the preliminary final projections.
Okay.
The Padres generally project as the second best team in the NL West. I think we can guess what the first best team is
Rockies.
in the NL West, at least in the projections. Oh, yeah, the Rockies. It's going to be big times for the Rockies. Herman Marquez going to win 25 games. No, the Padres are competitive, but the Dodgers have done a lot. They've improved kind of their downside. It's a pretty stacked team, although there are weaknesses.
When you look at the deal that Profar just got, 3 years, $42 million, according to his projections, do you feel like that's a fair deal for him?
That's about right on target. He's kind of a league average-ish corner outfielder. Obviously, he was better than that in 2024, but teams pay for the future, not the past. No one wants to pay for 2024 unless they're going to get that in 2025. And he was terrible in 2023. He was down in 2021. He had a decent 2022, but even though he had a star level 2024, teams weren't going to pay based on that. And you see that a lot with players who don't have a lot of defensive value. You see the Pete Alonso market not really developing. You see Christian Walker just getting an ordinary deal. So that's about the market value for Profar.
Dan Szymborski, Fangraphs with us right now, Jon and Jim. So in your opinion, is this a miss for the Padres? As in, this won't be easily replicatable, so to speak, right, for A.J. Preller to find someone. Now, again, to your point, maybe Profar can't replicate it either, but how does Preller make up for the lost production of Profar?
Well, the problem is, on some level, they were always going to have to make up some of it. If you think of him as a 4-win player last year, he was probably going to be a 2-win player this year. So you're already going into an offseason, even if he comes back, having to replace those wins. So then the question becomes, do you make a trade? Is there something you can work out with another team? Or do you have to look at what's remaining in free agency? And there's not a lot out there anymore in free agency. It's kind of dwindled considerably. Anthony Santander was one of the last really exciting free agents. Now you're down to kind of the Alex Verdugo tier, which isn't that exciting. Austin Hayes, Harrison Bader. It's not a deep market. I would probably want to look for a trade first if you can wing that kind of thing, if you have the right matchup with another team. But I'm not sure that they really can do that much in free agency at this point.
Sounds promising. Moving over to Michael King, he's about to go to arbitration with the Padres. It's the first time a player's gone to arbitration with A.J. Preller as their general manager. But when the biggest thing here is like the projections for Michael King, it's hard to project because there's really not many players to compare him to. So when you look at Michael King and his outlook here for next season and into free agency, what type of deal would he garner if he was a free agent at this very moment in time?
I think he'd get a really, not a Blake Snell-esque deal or anything. That would be kind of a little silly to project that, but he would get a pretty substantial offer. because the Padres took the gamble in converting him back into a full-time starter, and it worked out incredibly well. You could say that he was a little version of Crochet last year, because even though he didn't get quite the press that Crochet did, he actually did the similar thing. He came back from relief to go back into starting and was very good. And he's going to be looking at a substantial offer. And I'm not sure that the Padres, if they really want to try to not get too far past where their payroll is now, I don't know how they work that out. That's an interesting problem, I guess.
It's become really kind of the problem of the offseason. Like, how do they sustain the success they had in 2024, even in 2025, if they're trying to shed payroll coming off a 93-win season, which was their most regular season wins since 1998. Now, obviously here, Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs is with us on Jon and Jim. As you know, the Roki Sasaki saga played out in Southern California all offseason. A lot of people thought he was going to end up potentially in San Diego. Ultimately, the favorite lands him in the Dodgers. What are the projections on Sasaki from day one in the major leagues?
They're not quite. They're more on the level, at least from my projections. They're on the level of Imanaga, who Zips really did like, but not quite on Yamamoto's level. He's not quite as finished a product, not quite as polished. So there is some risk there, but any team who could get him wanted him for very good reason. The interesting thing about the Dodgers is they actually still don't project as well as they did going into 2021. There are some downsides to the team. They have pretty incredible depth at this point, especially in the starting pitching when you look at the arms they have around. But you look at that offense, and there is some risk there, not because the guys aren't very good, but you do have a team that their core is kind of getting past 30 into their declining years. So it's not a lot, but this is not an invincible team.
Well, I like hearing that, even though on paper it seems like they're going to win 130 games. And
well, real quick on that, because Dan came on last year, and we were like, this division's over, right? And this was later when you had the projections. Like, no, not really. There's like an 80 to 90% chance, but that leaves like a 10 or 20% outlier.
Yeah.
And then we were talking. I mean, we're in the middle of September. The Padres, I mean, they finished 5 fewer wins than LA?
So yeah, 98, 93. Yeah.
You know, so like, again, you don't have it yet, Dan, but I mean, they're not going to be a 99% chance of winning the division, right? Heading into the season, or will they?
No, nobody really is, unless you take a major league team and put them in AAA or something.
Right.
People tend to underestimate the risks that any team, any player has.
Right.
And that's where you see these things happen, where things just fall apart. It hasn't happened to the Dodgers yet. And what they've done, some of these signings they've made, Sasaki, the relievers, it's not so much increasing their top end win count, because they've kind of reached that point where they have diminishing marginal returns from every additional player they add, because you can't start 12 guys. What they've done is they've kind of limited their floor, so to speak. There's almost no chance to say that they only go like 80 and 82 or something. Their depth is just too much for that. So that's a very low chance. They've insulated themselves. But this isn't a team that's going to go into the season projected to win 115 games or anything crazy like that. The Padres will enter the season with a realistic but a significant underdog chance of winning the division.
Jackson Merrill put together an amazing season last year. Coming up on his sophomore season, we saw a massive dip with Corbin Carroll, a guy that had a breakout rookie year, and his sophomore season was not good. Do you have any concern about that happening with Jackson Merrill going into his sophomore year here in San Diego?
I wouldn't call it concern. It's, people call it the sophomore slump, but that's not really a thing. What you tend to happen is that the guys who had the best rookie seasons are probably the ones that had the most things go their way, because unlucky rookies end up in AAA after hitting 100 for the first couple weeks of the season. We'll just say Jackson Holiday. So you could look at Merrill, and it's likely his numbers will regress toward the mean a little bit, but he should still be a really, really good player and continue improving from that point. You see that a lot. You see players who take steps forward do take steps back. I ran the numbers a few weeks ago, and if you look at all the players under 25 who had 4 WAR seasons, more than 70% of them had significantly worse performance the following season. It's just the way it is. So Merrill's, probably a 3-win or a 4-win player, so it shouldn't be taken as a slight on him if he takes a small step back, because he is going to be a big piece of the Padres for a long time.
Final one for me, Dan, is on Dylan Cease, because a year ago, it would have been hard for me to believe that you can trade Juan Soto and get quote unquote better, but they did. They won 93 games. They got to the NLDS. Can they move Dylan Cease in an effort to shed payroll and then replicate that? Can they move Dylan Cease and get better?
They might be able to. I don't know if they could get better in 2025 by trading Cease. I think that the Soto trade worked out about as well as any trade of that type can work out. You're not going to probably, land on the free parking on Monopoly every time like they did with Michael King last year. But I think what they had to do is they had to look at their payroll long term and see where their needs are and how much they can spend. Because one of the problems the Padres had is they kind of hit the maximum payroll they wanted to spend like halfway through their contention window. And what happens, generally speaking, with the team that's in contention is that team gets more and more expensive. Their young players hit arbitration. Their players in arbitration hit free agency, and they had to make hard decisions. They didn't really leave a top for them to go to. They didn't leave money reinforcements, so to speak. There is a way they can get better, but it might not necessarily be for 2025.
Great insight. As always, we love having
Thanks,
you on. Dan Szymborski. Baseball's coming. The Padres truck is left for Peoria.
Yeah.
We'll see how many wins are inside that truck in 2025. Dan, thanks for hopping on in San Diego. We'll do it again soon, all right?
Always fun, guys.
All right, great stuff. Dan Szymborski. Brian Dutcher's show's coming up at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for the head coach of the Aztecs off the Air Force overtime win, getting ready for Nevada, you can get those in right now. 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with team. I will read your questions live on air.
Oh, it must be nice.
Do you have a question for Dutch? Where can I get your bobblehead?
No. Well, the final play of the game,
drawing up
that play, was that it, exactly according to plan?
Or why Wayne over who were the other guards on the floor? You have Taj DeGorville who got the final shot of regulation.
Jared Coleman-Jones, Guath, and was it Chemo? No, not Chemo.
No.
Oh, BJ Davis.
Yeah.
So was that play drawn up for Wayne McKinney the whole time? And was that like how well did you execute that play? Obviously,
I think pretty well.
Obviously, made the layup. Yes, they executed it very well. But
by the way, watch this play again at the break. I'll watch it with you. He almost laid that off the glass too hard.
I know he did that earlier. I think in that fourth quarter, in the second half or overtime, where he drove and he laid it up and it was too hard off the glass.
It was hard off the front rim, off the glass.
Who was that? Was that an end of regulation? And Jared Coleman-Jones missed the easy putback.
Yeah, they hurried it, right? I think that was regulation. They hurried the putback and the play. Yeah. It's like 2 missed layups.
I thought at one point Goon was gonna put back dunk that.
By the way, how about the play real quick? Nobody cares, but I'm gonna ask you on air anyway.
Okay.
5 seconds left of regulation. I thought it was off Taj. They looked at it for like 10 minutes. They kept it with San Diego State.
It was off Taj.
It was weird, right?
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna be off Taj, and then they got a bad shot there, a falling away to your right 3-pointer by Taj, and you're like, that wasn't the best shot you could have gotten. But I thought the tip-in was the death nail.
Oh, the tip-in was ridiculous, dude.
And, for all the crap that we gave the refs last night for the just insane amount of time they spent on reviewing those calls and the ridiculous way they officiated that game on both sides. Thank God they looked at that and added some time on the clock.
Yeah, they probably had 5 minutes to get ready for that Wayne McKinney layup.
Yep, reset, and you added a couple more half a second there. It's like, okay, it's good.
All right, Brian Dutcher show at 6. You can text us 70470. Start it with team if you have a question for Dutch. Jim's back page is next.
San Diego Sports.
concert happening a week from tonight, broadcast at iHeartRadio stations nationwide and the free iHeartRadio app. Thursday, January 30th. For donations and concert information, visit fireaidla.org. That's fireaidla.org. Brian Dutcher Show coming up at 6. If you've got a question for the head coach of the Aztecs, you can text us, 70470. Start your message with the word team. Get your questions if you text us, 70470. Started with the word team.
Oh, and by the way, we haven't mentioned, we got Lakers Celtics after Brian Dutcher Show at 7.
Just Lakers Celtics, Jim. Just Lakers Celtics.
Must be
Have they
nice.
ever played before?
I don't know if they have. Are they both expansion franchises or just the Boston team? I think the Boston team is new.
They're new-ish.
The Boston team?
Yeah. By the way, it's you follow Wob?
What? Wins above bubble?
No. Oh my god.
Is this a new metric it's a new metric that is on the team sheet.
Bubble.
Selection Sunday. What?
You know who I'm talking about, Brian?
WAB.
Wob?
No.
Worldwide Wob?
Yeah. There's like a Twitter handle or something.
Anyway, he puts out jersey matchups, and tonight is the number one. It's an elite matchup. It's the classic Celtic green versus the classic Laker gold jerseys. None of this like City Connect / City whatever.
But they're both wearing dark.
Stupid Nike jerseys.
Are they wearing dark? One's wearing gold and the other's wearing green.
Yeah, it's a classic Laker.
But I'm
Celtics
saying
matchup.
normally home road
normal
you're gonna hit the white and the dark.
Yeah, but Lakers don't do that.
Lakers don't have
Well, they do have one.
They
They
have
just,
a white.
Yeah, they have a white.
I'm just glad that it's a classic matchup tonight. So it's a like perfect jersey matchup in the NBA, where in the NBA their jerseys have become really bad.
They're not going City Connect tonight.
No, they're not.
Okay.
And since we were talking about Lakers jerseys, I wish they'd bring back. You remember those blue Los Angeles, like Minneapolis Lakers ones they'd wear when Kobe and Shaq were? How come they never wear those anymore? Those are cool. They should bring those back.
Call the ticket line.
I'll call Jeannie after the show.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it.
It's time for Jim's Back Page.
I gotta blame the fans and the media. And after that, it's the lineman's fault, it's the coach's fault, the owner's fault, the turf, referees.
Today's stories that you might have missed.
So this is kind of a weird story. You know the Topps trading cards, John?
Of course.
Okay. Well, they announced earlier today a first look at an exclusive card that will be releasing this year. It's the founding father John Hancock 1-of-1 cut autograph card.
How?
I don't know.
He signed it?
The most famous signature in the history of signatures. Shockingly,
Herbie Hancock.
We found one that
Tommy
fits in a trading card, and they made it into a trading card.
And it's 1-of-1?
It's a 1-of-1.
But how did he sign it?
They found his autograph, and it's like it's
Gotcha.
small enough to make into a trading card.
Is he wearing like a basketball jersey? It doesn't have to do with sports.
It doesn't. It's just his autograph, and then it's a special like card.
That's
See
pretty
that?
cool. How much is it worth?
I don't know.
But 1-of-1, so probably a lot.
Probably. So there you go. What's the score of that game that you're watching? And not
I'm
paying attention to
watching
the show to?
Memphis, Wichita State. Memphis leads by 3 minutes to play.
You know the Paul Skeens? I hate you. The Paul Skeens rookie card, the 1-of-1 with the patch.
That the 11-year-old LA kid has?
That was signed, and it was like out there for months and months and months.
And the Pirates are like, we'll give you like season tickets if you give it to us.
No shot.
Nobody wants Pirates.
Yeah, that kid might be 11 years old, but trust me, he's not doing that stupid deal. Well, they got it graded.
Okay.
And that is a huge thing when it comes to, playing cards.
Right.
It graded out as
F plus.
It graded out as a gem mint 10.
So perfect
grade. It is a perfect grade 10 of a gem mint 10 from PSA. That thing is going to be worth so much money.
That's what I was going to say. Do we have any idea on the value here?
I don't know the value, but when you find a 1-of-1,
1-of-1,
and it's of a guy who could win multiple Cy Youngs. He won Rookie of the Year, star player, Livy Dunn factor, right?
Would you try to move that thing if you're this kid, or you hold on to it?
I hold on to that for a long time.
But then you run the risk of Paul Skeens not being Paul
You do.
Skeens.
You do. But if you sold it now,
Right, you could get more.
You can get millions more.
Okay.
Or thousands more,
Yeah.
or 100,000
Yeah.
more, or whatever. But it's been graded a perfect dual 10 by PSA. That's like very rare.
Right.
Because, things go in cards and they get messed up, and it's hard to find a perfect rare or perfect gem mint dual graded 10 card.
Right.
So anyway,
Okay.
there you go. Finally, this is kind of a weird story. Eagles fans have opportunity now to buy snow from their game last weekend against the LA Rams.
Hasn't melted?
Well, if it's frozen.
Right. Okay.
The Eagles are selling the snow from the snow game, and Saquon Barkley setting the Eagles playoff record with 205 rushing yards.
Right.
Quote, the snow is being offered in partnership with the Realist. I don't know what that is. Has been collected, carefully preserved, and authenticated to allow fans to own a genuine piece of Eagles history. Are you buying snow, John?
No. I mean, this wasn't from like the most iconic game in franchise history. Beat the Rams in the divisional round.
Yeah, I'm not buying snow.
I mean, Eagles have a good postseason history. It's not Steelers. It's not Niners. But I mean, they've won a Super Bowl here in the last 5 years. You're selling divisional round.
Here's some snow.
Like, yeah, no, I'm not buying snow.
No,
And
I'm
how much are they selling it for?
Perfect Valentine's Day gift for Aaron.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
They are, let's see here.
It can sit in the
Probably
freezer with that
$200.
piece of your guys' wedding cake for years.
Does it say how much?
Does not say how
All
much.
right. Go to eagles.com, which is probably like a.
It doesn't matter how much it is.
bird
I'm not buying
site.
snow for any amount of money.
Right.
What am I going to do with that?
All right, Brian
Look at
Dutcher's
it.
show is coming up next. You can text us if you have a question for the head coach of the Aztecs. 70470. Start it with the word team. We're back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Maybe the Padres do something. For Brent and Jim, I'm John. Keep it here. Brian Dutcher's show is next on San Diego Sports 760.